Welcome everyone to the annual Canada Dam Symposium. And I allow me before we start anything to start with the land acknowledgement. Toronto is in the dish with one spoon territory. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississauga, Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent indigenous nations and people, European and all newcomers, have been invited into this treaty in the spirit, peace of friendship and respect. It's a pleasure to welcome you in this year's symposium. Our theme then and now is particularly meaningful because it's allow us to reflect on how far we have come as a community. My name is Dr. Reem El Saleh. I am the professor and the interim chair in the graphics communication management at the Creative School, Toronto Metropolitan University, and I'm the co-founder and director of the Lab Excellent on Digital Asset Management, the world's first academic lab dedicated to advanced digital asset management research, education, and community building. Back in 2021, during the height of the pandemic, this event began as a small invitation-only gathering called Canada Coast to Coast Dam Symposium. At that time, our goal was simple: bring together dam professionals from across Canada to start conversation and share experience and build connection in the field that was still largely underrepresented in academic and professional passes. 5 years later, the conversation has gone into a vibrant and engaged community. We officially launched the Lab of Excellence in Asset Management in 2023. We expanded our research activity, establishing new industry partnership and creating opportunity for student researchers and practitioners to collaborate and advance the dam professional. Today's program basically reflect that journey, and we are so happy to have you join us to celebrate this journey. Speaking of dedication, I want to encourage that many of you are choosing to spend part of our day with us during FIFA World Cup season. As an Canadian, and I deeply appreciate the commitment. So don't worry, we promise to stay on a schedule so everyone can make it in time to cheer your team, including, of course, Team Canada, and consider that as one of most important key performance indicator of the day. Before we get started, I would like to thank all the speakers, sponsors, collaborators, volunteers, student attendees, and helping build and sustain the growing community. The success of this symposium has always been driven by the people in this virtual room, the shared passion of digital asset management Canada around the world. Housekeeping. This event has been recorded, and the recording will be sharing with all registered attendees after the symposium. Closed caption is available. Simply click on Show Caption button in your Zoom toolbar to enable it. To help ensuring the best experience for everyone, participant microphone and cameras will remain disabled through the event. Each presentation will follow by a Q&A session. Please submit your question using the Zoom Q&A feature. I will be monitoring the chat through the day. Feel free to share comment, reaction, resources, or send a direct message to me if you have any assistance. We also encourage you to build a community, your professional networking by sharing your LinkedIn profile in the chat and connect with your fellow. Thank you again for joining us, for being part of this journey from where we started in 2021 to where we are today. I look forward to an inspiring day of reflection, learning, collaboration, and perhaps even new prediction about where DAM will be 5 years from now. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce my co-host and today Master of Ceremonies, David Lepsy. David is one of the most respected voices in the DAM community, a recognized expert in DAM technology, and a key supporter to countless of DAM initiatives, including the establishing and growth of the LED Lab. David, the virtual stage is yours.
Reem, thanks so much. I just wish we wouldn't have to be saying to each other, excuse me, you're on mute, and we could all be in a room together. Our theme of now and then, and how with DAM we are every day thinking about what's next and aware that the meaning of now changes so persistently, and well, this thing just won't sit still. Our program today features keen insights from international industry leaders who translate the persistence of digital opportunity and contributions into what DAM needs to be doing in a corporate setting. We have contributions from a top global leader in taxonomy and metadata, and an in-depth conversation from two of our most senior Canadian cultural heritage executives who share a pivotal digital transformation perspective about how the right guiding pillars, partnerships, people, and technology work together for the ever-widening digital and institutional horizons. We welcome next the core of LED's mission. We learn of Ream's vision for an expanded mentoring program, TMU's signature creative DAM-driven awards, and in many ways the remarkable progress that LED has made in the years since Ream and I translated our vision and a bit of our frustration of no research in DAM to a vibrant cohort of research. On that note, I have the opportunity to welcome another leader in our field who is dialing in from France, Fred Senet. When I first met Fred, he was making DAM work, like many of us, from a technological perspective. He has seen the opportunity to unfold many innovative horizons with his transition from being part of a very interesting DAM vendor to a DAM leader around the country, bringing community together, bringing substantive information together through DAM News. Fred, it's always a delight to welcome you, and I get to see you without a camera in your hand, which is unusual. And
Yeah,
thank you for your support of LED. And over to you, Fred.
yeah, thank you so much, David. So everybody can see my screen and can hear me. It's okay?
Yes. Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
go
for sure.
ahead.
I think
There we
I
go.
really appreciate by where your words, David. So I think it's we'll go back to her. I think it's something like more than 10 years ago, you were saying that, Stewart, that this is a damn community. And it's always the same things I try to leverage on the daily basis. So first of all, I appreciate all these initiatives and especially driven by our leader, Rim, who is doing a fantastic job since so many years, and also and especially for the students, because students are the future. On our side, so I was just going very quickly of what we are doing. Of course, we are in this fantastic view of the Champs-Élysées, which is more or less a perfect mix of nice food, drinks, and museums, and then so amazingly place to visit. Since beginning of this year, we are now a location in London because, of course, brands are everywhere. So we are very delighted by way to do this. To extend finally the opportunities. Something I think, and this year will be a special year because since the last 5 years, we started on DAM Paris at the heart of brands, retailers, and agencies, and especially here this year. And of course, I was missing to tell, but I'm also speaking in the behalf of Manika Keshish. We made the decision to invite 5 students to Undam to pay the travel, the expenses. And finally, I think it will be a great honor for us to invite students, talented students, to get the opportunity to talk, to share, and visit, to meet customers and meet all of the DAM vendors. So we are an agnostic and independent consulting company since the last 6 years. We created Malika and myself. It's all about finally the user experience at the end of the day and what matters. We are agnostic, so it's very important. So we have no money from any vendors, and I think this is the DNA. And more or less, we are trying to help customers to find the right path to take from business requirements to DAM deployments. Okay. I think it's very important to know that I really appreciate every year, every day, the amazing graphic job done by the students. So it's always a challenge to compete and to do something. So Bideware, I think it's great. It's just a clear representation finally of what a dam is today. So a lot of content coming here on the different input channel, and of course a lot of content that has to be distributed in web, social, etc. A lot of information and data. So this is the dam. So, and of course the dam is even more mature after the years. And the dam is not a PIM, it's not a CMS. And I think the dam is really this type of engine for the assets and the metadata. Something we are doing in Dynews, and thanks David also to highlight this one, because we acquired Dynews 4 years ago. It was very important for us because it's all about the content and the experience. And we're also trying to stamp the DAM market with a couple of specifications, because DAM is not a simple window with thumbnails, so it's much more complicated than that, and especially in order to support high quality images, and as for example for brand luxuries. It's all about also some maturity, and a lot of things are changing also at that stage, and especially now today at the age of AI, we're also talking about a lot of distribution, activation, sustainability, and the DAM is even more at the heart of your customer ecosystem. So that's something we are really working on our side. Every DAM project, 80% of the time for us, is also a PIM and a CMS project. So it's a lot of complexity, but something says every time, it's the DAM is the foundation of everything. And of course, the DAM is a growing market after the years. So more and more brands, customers are searching for to retrieve assets very fast. And of course, the market is even more growing, and thanks to the new AI capabilities. So the purpose, as you know, of the DAM is to manage images, videos, audios, 3D files, workflows. It's a lot of content everywhere. While talking about DAM, we're also very often talking also about MAM, because we have customers that have to manage a lot and large video files. And the cloud sometimes is not the only solution, which is important to keep in mind. Of course, it's difficult for us to talking about DAM without talking about metadata. And we have some good French, just like our friend from Jonas here, about the metadata. So metadata matters. On our side, by Activo, we are voters and members of the IPTC organization, of a CEPIC, of the C2P organizations. And there's one standard in this industry since 1965 that has been applied in 1969, which is the IPTC for International Press Telecommunication Council. So this is the opportunity to keep metadata inside the files and to keep this information following the assets. Of course, we have AI. So there's a lot of things we can say about AI. So of course, as we are saying very often, you need somebody here between the chair and the keyboard. AI is based on the metadata. AI does not think. So it's all about the content you have in order to make AI smart and intelligent. But something we see, of course, today by some vendors, they try to improve the enrichment, to improve translation, to improve brand control, to improve workflow capabilities. So everything in one single thing. At that moment, we do think it's a little bit early, and very often you don't have any business model, but for sure, the only thing we can advise is test it. The C2PA is important for us. This in one way to track the asset, to track the provenance of the assets. So we have a couple of experts in the industry, also suppliers, camera suppliers, vendors. At that moment, we already have 4 main vendors bringing C2PA capabilities. So this is one way to be sure that your content has been created or not by AI. And of course, at the end of the day, you need to get a view of vendors. By Dynews, we have more or less more than 100 solutions. As we are saying, it's not a race, which means that every customer is a use case. So you can have some open source solution, especially in France, we have some customer using Piwigo. Nobody knows who is Piwigo, but it's an open source DAM solution. And on the other side, you have the Adobe things. So in between, the things we can say, you have a choice to find some amazing technology, and If our job is finally um, to advise the customer and regarding vertical markets, which then can fit their business requirements. So just to finish, Damius or is everything is free. You can search for any articles. So it's more than 5,000 articles since 2009. We're also cooking a book. So of course, it's not maybe the time to spend the time reading a book, but it's sometimes it's good. And so we are trying to update on the 2 years, every 2 years, this information. We have the news FR, and it's important because we are also, it's important for us to talk also to our French people. We are doing a magazine, print is not dead. And as soon as you're writing something, it's even more, and it's you can scan this magazine. And in fact, it's a French and English one. We also launched an Activo TV, a lot of content, a lot of interviews, because sometimes it's difficult to read a book, but it's so we are also trying to leverage DAM system with amazing videos. And I'm just finishing by Undam Paris 2026. It's free for the visitors. It's free for the students. It's free for everybody that wants to tackle and knows more about the DAM. We have an amazing landscape of vendors, more or less all of them. It's all about the excellence of France. So if you want to get the best of France, it's something you can visit. So you can see third week of November, 17th, 18th. And so it would be a great honor to have you. You can also connect, you can register. It's also something you can follow online during the 2 days of this conference. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have any questions.
Thank you. What a
Thank you
delight.
so much.
Yeah, what a delight to have so many varied offerings to bring together the community to affirm and provide leadership, and also to reflect on the fact that there will be students receiving the benefits of your outreach who will be at DAM in Paris in November. Thank you for that. When Reem
Thank
and
you,
I
David.
first had the opportunity to announce LED, it was so fun to be at a large Henry Stewart gathering, the one in person after COVID, and ask everybody to raise their hand who'd studied DAM as an undergraduate. And of course, no one raised their hand. And how the impact of your outreach and what Reem has done to considerably change that landscape in such a meaningful way. Our next presentation is called A Year in the Life of DAM, or How a Dog's Year is an Understatement in DAM. Our tremendous growth in putting DAM to work globally for our brand. We've got Ed Wong from Arcturix, who has sat at the helm of bringing DAM into this internationally known brand. He's thought long and hard about how to get this started, and then lo and behold, what to do next week. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, David. Well, thank you, Reem. Thank you, David, for the invitation again this year to present and just share a little bit about my world at Arcturix. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. There we go. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Looks great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, first off, if everyone was here last year, we were just in the midst of launching our very first dam at Arcturix. And so we finally reached 1 year as of last Friday, which is really exciting for us. It was a long almost 3 years of kind of getting us here after, and I'll talk a little bit more about that journey later as to how long Arcturix was kind of in a legacy sort of platform and situation there. So 1 year. So I'm really glad to be here today to share a little bit about how far we've come since then. So a little bit about myself, just to introduce myself to those who I haven't met before. I'm the Global Digital Asset and Systems Manager at Arcturix. I've been in the DAM space sort of inadvertently sometime at times for probably about 16 years. Started off as an end user of DAM, and then eventually started leading DAM initiatives at Canadian, predominantly Canadian organizations, but obviously now Arc'teryx is one of the global organizations that I've had the privilege of being a part of. Joined Arc'teryx back in October 2023. So, what was really great about that is that I was kind of handed the keys to this project. No real basis as to where to start from. They kind of just brought me in and said, "Hey, like we kind of see your background, your history. Like here are the keys. Go find the best dam for us and try to build something here." And I think that's often kind of how we operate at Arc'teryx, which is kind of great, is that there's a lot of this autonomy and just ability to kind of go and drive initiative and drive change within the organization. So my main focus was to lead the end-to-end MVP launch of the Arc'teryx dam. So back in June 2025, so we've thankfully deployed that, and we've gone through several different iterations of it now at this point. And so my goal at Arc'teryx is to lead strategy, and really kind of think outside the box of what traditional DAM is, but really build up the overall brand marketing technology portfolio. So that comes down to architecting a full-on ecosystem that is centered around DAM. So DAM at Arc'teryx is really the core, and we're building around it now. So sort of DAM is the first step into modernization in a lot of ways. So obviously we're tackling a lot of different high level subjects. The next big one that I'm kind of tackling, which I can't speak too much about, but it's around global storage solutions. And some of you who are either in the entertainment space or have worked with digital assets before kind of know the ins and outs of that. But on an enterprise level, how do we optimize our storage, but then also make a really good use case for that, but have that part of the DAM ecosystem? So that's a big part of what I'm doing right now today. Okay. For those who are not familiar with Arc'teryx, I'll do a quick introduction as to what we are. We are a global outdoor technical apparel brand. So maybe just quickly, if you guys can use the reaction tool, show of hands, does everyone here know Arc'teryx, or who has heard of Arc'teryx? Just quick show of hands, if possible. Okay, great. So we got some here that are familiar with our work. So technical apparel brand. So if you've ever been out on the slopes, you would have seen some of our gear out there. You may even own a few pieces yourself. So we are based out of Vancouver, so proudly Canadian owned brand. But what's kind of great about what we do from the DAM perspective is that we are really tied to the overall Amer family, so the Amer Sports family. So that includes Peak Performance, that includes Solomon, that includes Wilson Sports as well, Atomic, and various others. And so what's kind of interesting about our journey is that with Arc'teryx, we've kind of been able to be a bit of a trailblazer in influencing, not necessarily influencing in terms of telling other brands what they should invest in terms of a dam, but really influence the strategy model of what we can do at Amer Sports as a whole, but also be individual in our own right at the same time. So it's been 1 year, and I want to talk a little bit about high-level stats of some of our successes that we've been able to reach up into this point. Very proudly, I'm able to share some of this because when you think about it, it's only been a year, and for the amount of work it is to launch a platform and the change management and user adoption aspect of things that come with all of that, it's quite the work that my team would have had to kind of go through to get all these end users kind of adopting the DAM and supporting the end users once they have adopted the system and they're using it on day to day, and just trying to face the day-to-day challenges that may come with it, but supporting them at the same time. So first off, we've onboarded about 5,000 global users in DAM across Arc'teryx. So that's pretty much everyone in the company. So we do not hold back in terms of visibility. Now, there's certain securities and there's rights management associated to all of this, but it's really crucial to us. Like when my initiative and something I really wanted to do when I brought in this DAM is be a fully global system, and as if you were using a centralized system within an organization to use these materials for reference. So you could be in finance, you need images for decks, or you could be in brand marketing that's preparing for the next campaign. We want end users to be able to access this, even the C-suite. Like we've built this out so that C-suite users can go in there and grab assets as well. Okay. Something that's a relatively new stat for us, but something that we're very proud of is that we do sell product to our B2B partners across the country and globally as well. And we've been able to onboard over 1,000 wholesaler users into our DAM, into some sort of version of the DAM. So whether that is a portal, which I'll get into shortly, or whether it's the true DAM, to maximize full visibility, we have wholesalers that are in there today. So we started at zero, and the original legacy platform, that was not something that we've been doing. Okay. We did 130 training sessions and onboarding sessions since June 2025. So you can imagine a lot of you probably tons of meetings in a day. You can imagine how many training sessions there are to try to onboard. And this is all about building up goodwill as well amongst your end users. So it's one thing to ask your end users to adopt a system and say, hey, this is the way we're going. If I pull a quote from The Mandalorian, this is the way. We can't just say that and then expect them to do it. We have to train them and we have to be there on a day-to-day basis. So on top of this, we do have a weekly office hours that we do support our end users. And that's a full hour, and anybody can drop in and ask questions. It's also a live chat, which our end users are using quite often to ask us questions in real time. And our team, I have a team of 3 currently on my sort of direct report team. We also have some team members on the tech side who support as well. So it's a small bunch that supports a big group of end users globally. But we find that there's a lot of successes in that method of sort of partnership building. Okay. We've hit about over 1 million total global downloads since June 2026, which is a lot for us. I mean, to be able to kind of track that and to kind of see where we're coming from, because our overall output in terms of brand marketing isn't massive in terms of the content. But we obviously have our seasonal campaigns that are associated to it. So to know that these end users are downloading this much up until this point is pretty amazing for us. And so that's an increase of 181% since December 2025, which was roughly around 400,000 and change. Okay. And then unique asset downloads, which is over 500,000 since June 2026. So I'll kind of move forward through sort of all these stats here. Total assets in DAM. So collectively, we actually have a portfolio of over 1 million assets. When we were moving from legacy into DAM, we found that there was in the legacy system, there's about 2 million assets in total, actually. We did a little bit of a taxonomy refresh and a little bit of a cleanup just to ensure that we're not pulling in any redundant data or assets, and we were able to cut that number in half. So the true number is about 1 million. We've only migrated over about, I think at the start it was about just under 50,000, and we've reached about 315,000 now, which is inclusive of all the new seasons. So we have a whole library of legacy assets that we're looking to bring in. My strategy and sort of my view on things is that we don't want to bring anything over that we don't have clear rights associations to. And I won't get into the weeds as to how rights management works, but it's very crucial for us, especially when you're dealing with athlete imagery and photographer imagery that has certain rights association to the agreements. So we're kind of carefully bringing these things in at a time. But for us, 300,000 is still quite, from an accessibility standpoint, a lot of assets that we're providing our end users that are usable today. Okay. We've increased our user logins pretty significantly. So over close to 1900% since December 2025, which is massive. So it just speaks to our adoption numbers and what end users are using on a day-to-day. So they are truly using the DAM as a workflow tool, as something that they have integrated in their processes, and we're obviously very happy about that. We get a lot of engagement because of it. Okay. One thing that I want to speak to, which will be in later slides as well, is we've reduced manual tagging by 70%. So when we launched the dam, it was a relatively manual process for end users to upload assets into the system. And for many who have launched a dam before, that might be a very commonplace, something that you've experienced in the past. But for us, we wanted to really accelerate the process of like being really of, hey, our end users just need assets at the start. So there will be a little bit of challenges at the beginning to, add another thing to their process and their workflow of manually tagging assets when prior they would have just drag and dropped into a folder, but there's no metadata associated to it. So we've moved obviously from model to model, moving away from a folder-based system to a much more flat taxonomy-based system, but really focusing on the tagging aspect of it to help inform search and to help inform the future growth of the dam. And so what we've moved to in a DAM 2.0 model, which I'll speak to a little bit later, is remove the manual tagging aspect and add automations. And so we've been able to reduce 70% of the tagging since launch, which has been really significant for us. And for the most part, it is 100%. Prior it was 100% manual tagging previously, which was really challenging for end users. Okay. We've also added 5 new DAM portals, which it's effectively a really tailored experience in the DAM. So it's a window into DAM, but a more isolated view of it for very specific areas. So as I mentioned earlier, we onboarded about 1,000 wholesale users, and we've built them their own tailored wholesale portal for them to view alone. The benefits of this is quite often that the end users don't have to search through, hundreds of thousands of assets. They can just search through an isolated view of assets. And so we built out a wholesale B2B portal. We've also moved over our digital archive. So digital archive is a little bit different from DAM. The digital archive is more of a heritage system, and we've moved that over to our DAM. So what that's been able to do is it's actually helped us save 6 figures in cost savings, operational cost savings in doing that. So when there would have been some redundancy there, we've been able to optimize it and bring that over into DAM. So that was something that I felt like we should do, and it's been well received just for the sake of everything centralized now, and anybody who wants those historical assets can just go to the DAM and find that digital archive link, and then you go to that. So it's just a lot tighter of an ecosystem. Global comms. So I'm sure a lot of you who work with agencies, quite often it's kind of a la carte in terms of distribution, or maybe they do pick from a folder. We wanted to create a different experience for our digital comms, or sort of our global comms teams. So where they don't really have the time in a day to go into the DAM and again search through hundreds of thousands of assets, we've created an isolated portal where we're automatically driving assets to their comms portal so that they can share with agencies to do work. So whether that's for a magazine or an advertisement, or they have contractors who are working with them, this is an opportunity where they're able to engage with that much more in real time without the effort of having to go search for assets. I think what we're trying to do operationally overall at our Terex is really reduce time wasted for our end users to try and go and grab things or try to search. We really want to expand that ecosystem and make it really easy to navigate. Okay. And then 2 other portals we've just deployed, relatively new, is EMEA, which is our European partners, mostly around store opening images. So there's a separate portal for that as well, because obviously we're very proud of all the different store activations that we're doing. And so for the business, it's very much in demand to be able to access that imagery. And so we've built this out kind of for the C-suite level user, but also level user who wants to access those imageries for decks or presentations, or just to or share amongst their teams. So that's kind of what's been available to them. Lastly, from a stats standpoint, I do want to speak to the Jira board. So those of you who work in Jira or have worked in some sort of service desk platform, we've integrated Jira with DAM as well. So what we do with that, and the strategy behind it, is that We obviously don't want to get a ton of requests through Teams or through email. So we're trying to drive all the traffic through Jira, which is a lot easier for us to filter through, but also gives us good tangible stats to help build for the future. So when I talk about building for the future, quite often a lot of people here might be familiar with, DAM being kind of a one person team. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that. Sometimes it's smaller. But the purpose of this is to be able to track and add justifications for future growth. So whether that's to make the team bigger, whether it's to bring in new integrations and platforms that help support growth and development of the DAM system or even the Jira board. These things kind of help validate improvements and helps us bring it to governance committees and internal workshops to help sort of enhance and grow these sort of areas of work that we're trying to do. So some really good stats there in terms of just account updates, metadata requests, and just general questions and trainings that kind of come through it as well. But yeah, there are other things that we're starting to integrate within Jira at the same time. So that's 1 year view of the DAM. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So when we talk about DAM 2.0, this is going to be a very overwhelming slide for you, and I've blocked out a couple things just because I'd say they're hypersensitive, but I do want to visually show you the amount of work that goes into DAM 2.0. So last year I shared a very similar slide, which was everything we're doing in the first year. This is everything we're doing in the second year. And this year is all about stabilization and creating standards for things. So when we launched with the idea of let's just get the assets to the end users. Let's try to clean it up the best we can, but we won't know the impact until we deploy this out. So from basically half a year of deployment, we've been able to find a lot of areas we need to improve on. And so we're doing a full taxonomy refresh again. We did it the first time, but we're doing it once again to ensure that we're creating new standards that will help inform automations that we're trying to put in place. Something that Friedrich had mentioned earlier is around you can't really, AI doesn't really do it on its own. You kind of need to inform it with metadata and sort of the taxonomy build that. Well, it's kind of the similar idea is that we're trying to set up standards across the whole organization with naming conventions and a clean taxonomy that will help inform these new automations and integrations that we want to build out. So you see like a lot of different areas of work, special projects, which is around like really specialty areas within the organization that we really want to have high impact. Foundational work, which is really the bread and butter of operations. And if you just look closely, you'll see like global sports marketing, Valence, which is another product line, social media, people and culture, academy. Those are all different departments within our company that is going through a new taxonomy refresh right now, and throughout the year. So that's a ton of work that's happening. Some of the automations that we've set up as a part of this taxonomy refresh has already been deployed for campaign deliverables and campaign distribution. So what you'll see in purple is seasonal work that we're doing. So the next season that we're coming up to is FW26. And the whole point was to build towards this launch so that we can see what the findings are for this campaign and ensure that all these new functions and automations that we want to build out, leveraging the new taxonomy, is going to work for this upcoming season. Okay. Lastly, I'm just going to share one more slide. So this is a bit of a segue from the last slide of DAM 2.0. What we've been doing is we were in DAM 1.0, which is what I call kind of the mobile stage, and now we're in stabilization. What we're trying to get to next is acceleration. So what that means is once we've stabilized our ecosystem and how end users are interacting with the DAM, we can now accelerate that and deploy these new features globally to all of our other end users. So it is a global DAM today, but not in the way that all end users can upload to the system or interact with it like they can with the North America team. North America team kind of like does a lot of the testing first. What we're trying to do is do the testing, stabilize, and then accelerate within hopefully this year starting, but maybe into next year into other global regions like Europe, Asia, and sort of all the other countries that are within that. And then beyond that, which I'm still kind of planning out, is Dam 4.0. So we're really looking far ahead. This one really builds out a lot of, we need to build out use cases for the future. And so a big reason why we plan ahead is to be able to just so to be able to achieve the North Star is to do things in advance and to plan ahead. So we're trying to plan. We've been planning since Dam 1.0, and now we're planning to Dam 4.0. If you're familiar with sort of the Marvel Cinematic Universe of things and how they planned all these different phases, a lot of that's kind of influenced by it. Is it trying to plan early so that we can inform the future, and that's really where we want to be. So we've come a long way since our Dan Legacy platform, which really started in 2017 and it ended in 2025. And so now we're really starting to see a lot of acceleration because of this growth here. So that's a lot to pack in within 20 minutes. Hopefully that was informative. But yeah, I don't know, Reem, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them if we have time.
Ed, thanks so much. Really appreciate the thoughtful update and the evolution towards DAM X.0 that I know that you'll be shepherding. And what else have you been busy with? Just kidding about that. One interesting question came in. How does this widening universe hear about you and about this initiative?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part there, Dave?
Yeah, so if I'll reinterpret the question, how are your colleagues where DAM is landing in new parts of the organization, how are they hearing about it?
Yeah, so when we originally launched the dam, I'd say we put together a little bit of a marketing campaign. If anyone remembers last year, I had put a little sizzle reel together,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was sent out to the whole global organization. So we really try to get in front of it in terms of getting it on everyone's plates. But for me, to be honest with you, I was talking about the same scenario with the digital archive team, which is trying to develop a strategy. And I said, with Dan, we whiteboarded all the different areas of the organization to see where we can have a high impact. Because for us, we don't want to be stagnant and be passive. We want to be really proactive in our work.
Hmm.
So we don't expect end users or teams to necessarily come and try to find us. We want to find them and try to help them. We won't come to them with a use case unless we know that we can help support them and optimize their workflows in some sort of way or have some sort of way to improve their day-to-day experience with digital assets. And sometimes it's not even digital assets related per se. Sometimes it's related to like internal studio, like photo studio and the infrastructure that's associated to it, because it is all part of the same ecosystem, realistically. So that's how we kind of get the word out is, I kind of develop a strategy as to, these are the different parts of the org that need support. These are the different initiatives. Like if we have an anniversary book coming out or something, like
Sure.
let's chase that, let's go chase that. Let's see what we can do. Because what we don't want to do is receive it at the 11th hour and then everyone's scrambling to do the work. So
Yeah.
that's what we've been doing. And that's what the team's really hard at work, along with all the things you see on the roadmap.
Great. It's so lovely to hear about the center of excellence that you're helping to direct, the team that you put together. And I do like the fact that you ended with, we want to go chase that if we hear, say, for example, about an anniversary book. After all, this has just been a dog's year, 7 years worth of progress in 1 year. Ed, thanks so much for this thoughtful presentation, for your leadership in DAM. Very much appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Next up, we have the opportunity to enjoy another journey of considerable progress over many years. We've entitled this presentation, The Ground We Tilled and the Seeds We Planted, Our Remarkable Growth with DAM at Kubota. Chad Ming and Meline Fabrizio are both involved in leading this effort. Chad and Meline, it's a delight to have you here today. I've enjoyed working with you to get the presentation ready. Over to you. Thanks for your contributions.
Thanks. Thanks, David. Thanks so much for the introduction. And it's always a pleasure to be here and be part of this. This is such a unique and but growing industry, and it's It's great to be able to share some things that we do and obviously be able to help people understand what that meaning of DAM is, because DAM is not a system, but DAM is much more than that. And that's something that I think over the last few years, as we've evolved, we've really helped to really understand what that truly means. It's not really for us as the manufacturer in our situation, but it's really about our users. But before we go into that, let's do a bit of an intro on ourselves. So my name is Chad Ming. I'm Digital Marketing Manager. And what we kind of focus on in the digital marketing world at Kubota is really about growth accelerating. We don't sell directly, so we're really much around creating as much of a strong infrastructure, especially my team on the digital side, to allow for success, allow for that awareness, allow for consideration, conversions, purchasing, after purchase, you name it. So things like our web initiatives, our marketing automations and CRM platforms, influencer management, relationships, campaigns, product launches, paid advertising across the board from Google to AI systems, you name it. And we also create all of our programs and support all our programs for our dealers. So all of their marketing programs that do very similar things, web, paid, and you name it. We also oversee and manage those. And of course, we want to deliver success, so reporting and analytics. And on my team, happy to introduce Milan Fabrizio.
Thanks, Chad, and thanks, David, for having us back again. I work with Chad at Kubota. We work together on the digital marketing team, and I focus on the content, the strategy behind the content that we put out on each of our digital channels. Chad had mentioned a few. I'd like to add social media in there as well. We're active on 7 channels. But yeah, it's been about 4 years since I've been at Kubota. Chad, you've been just under 10. So we've been working together a long time, focusing again on the strategy and the execution of the different campaigns and contents across those digital platforms.
Amazing, thank you. So, for those who are familiar with Kubota, I'll bet you seems like there's a lot of Artex fans, including myself. But Kubota is a bit of a niche. But the one thing we know about people who get exposed to Kubota, especially people who work for Kubota co-op or in a partner or agency format, once you understand it, you will see Kubotas more often. It's something that's very common called Kubota spotting. So at Kubota here, we're based out of Ontario, so Pickering, Ontario. We work just across Canada, so all provinces, and we're a supplier of agriculture, construction, commercial, and residential equipment. And it's really designed to effectively support the Canadian infrastructure across all different environments, from the Arctic and the Yukon down to hot here in Toronto. We kind of support it all. We also have an extensive product range, so it's not just a few products. This is kind of what you see visually here. Just kind of a few of our products. We've got a lot of different sizes from smaller to larger for each different types of business, but we are very much focused on our high performance, durability, or reliability. And we've been doing this in Canada alone for over 50 years and globally for over 100. So we are well established and one of the leaders in our industry, and happy to be able to be here and represent Kubota, and also its. So the next thing is, as an OEM and not selling directly again, but as a large brand, why do we even need a DAM? So this is maybe a bit of an introduction, but a DAM really means something different for everyone. But for us specifically, there's 3 main components. And the first one is around brand control. And especially for us, where everything is very particular, certain, attachments here you see in the front only work with certain types of tractors. Everything is very specific. And from a legal perspective and from a consumer's perspective, it has to be exactly accurate. We can't make any of this up. So for our dealers who use our DAM, we want to make sure that they are confident every single thing that they see on there is going to be brand compliant. It's going to be a usable product. The other thing is manufactured. It's workable specifically in the Canadian market, so that it's easy for them to utilize, and they're confident in every single asset that they grab that they can use it. And the next part that kind of leads into is that speed to market. For our dealers to actually build this type of content themselves, to create and capture that is extremely difficult. So, organizing these shoots, organizing the details becomes quite a challenge. So speed to market allows our dealers to be dynamic. Our purchase cycle is relatively long, but for the dealers to be able to really implement something when they know they need it, whether it's, they're lacking on sales here or they want to promote a new product or something like that, they can do that very quickly. Our dealers don't typically have dedicated marketing staff. It's usually a part-time opportunity if they have any dedicated marketing people. So these people want to be able to do things as quick as possible with as little resources so they can focus on selling and supporting their customers. The last piece here is rights and compliance. And I'm showing a picture here, and it's hard to really tell, but this is actually a picture from one of our influencers. And so on the back end, Milena and I work closely with all of our influencers to procure some imagery. We also procure the contracts, the contract management, whether there's a start date, an expiry date, how long we can use it, where we can use it, whether it's Canadian specific or it could be North American. And so there's a lot of details and things like that that our dealers would not be able to do on their own. So we're able to do this, give them those confident assets, especially if it's for someone that they know or someone that's popular in their community, and then they can use that as they need. But as we've just been evolved over the last few years, we also had to identify an opportunity of why we need a new dam. So about 2 years ago, we went down the process of reviewing everything and seeing what the opportunity was for a new type of dam and really why we would need one. And the biggest thing that came out of this was a North American alignment. So there's a lot of there's two different companies, one Kubota USA, one in Kubota Canada, and we typically operated kind of independently. But over the last 5 years especially, we've been working more in closer collaboration, photo shoots, video shoots, a lot of shared assets. Most of our products overlap. About 95% of them do. So as we do a lot of shared product shoots, photo shoots, and have a lot of videos, a lot of assets we're capturing Canada, they're capturing, we found a need that we are sharing a lot. So having one consolidated place for all of our North American assets, allowing us to use as much as we can and share, but also have the opportunity to have individuality became very important because we were having to do this twice in two different systems, which became very challenging. The other piece was having local offers because we had our previous dam was great. It gave everyone their assets, but the ability to create something truly localized, a package that makes sense. The way that our products are used is very different across every province and also for every type of person. So you're seeing here a tractor. This can do, a variety of different tasks. It has over 50 attachments that can be put on this to do many different types of things. So locally, our dealers know what typically their customers use it for. So, and we wouldn't be able to create specific packages. So we've heard that the dealers need a lot more flexibility in creating packages that make sense. And this is an example of a French ad because we also have to make this available in English and French. So this was a challenge and an opportunity for us as we evolved our dam. Next was better findability. We had some issues on our previous dam with finding assets. And if a dealer or is going into your dam and they're not able to find things, you'll find that it starts to lose its value. And once people don't find it once or maybe even twice, they stop using it completely. So the feedback we found was, I can't find this, I can't find that. I looked in this area, and we had issues where our asset could be in one location, but not really others. So we would kind of guide people down to the right path, but just wasn't sticking the whole time. And so we thought, okay, we need to find ways to make sure that assets are in multiple places to make it better around multiple ways that people find things. So we came up with a plan. And this was a way to provide controlled access to approved digital assets. We wanted to make sure that it was easy for them to get to access the assets, of course. We wanted them to create localized promotional pieces. So find a way to make it easy for them to create local packages, ways to personalize this based on season and language. So as mentioned, we support our products are across many seasons and of course in English and French. And the ultimate resource and I think objective, especially for the executives to want to invest this amount of time to migrate from one dam to the other, is about reducing administrative time and costs. So, allowing us to have more freedom to do other projects and also reducing the costs is going to be one of the things that we had to make sure we delivered at the end of this. So we went ahead and did it and built it, and so far it's been doing really well. But here's a snapshot. We have, it's hard to see, but it's just under 21,000 assets across North America alone, and we use just over 8,000 assets in Canada. But you can see in the back end, it's a little bit complex, but we grouped them all together. There's a large way of, we collaborated with the American team on having shared folders, shared sections, ways to have assets in multiple different ways. The complex tagging strategy is, as mentioned by Edward too, so is constantly needed to make sure people can find things when they search for things the right way. So we wanted to make sure that we structure things in a very common way and collaborated quite well with our American team. And this is what it looks like on the Canadian English side of our homepage. You wanted to make things visual. We update things on a regular basis. One issue was that dealers were not seeing what was new, and they weren't seeing what was updated. So they'd have to go dig through to find that. So we're constantly updating this page with current events that are happening right now. And obviously, when they're done, we remove them. We make sure that the campaigns, you can see it's spring, which is spring right now for a few more days. So we have up-to-date, accurate assets right there. Product launches is something that our dealers were needing all the time. They wanted to promote to their customer when there's new things happening. Not all the products, but some of the ones that make the most sense or that they sell the most. So we wanted to make sure that was there. We also have other sub-brands that we promote and to make it made access to those on the right side. And so we wanted to make sure that we review this page at least on a monthly basis to make sure that it's up to date, it's accurate, it's refreshed, and the dealers feel that there's some change happening and allows them to get what they need very quickly. There's other, as mentioned in the first slide there, or two slides ago, the way that we structured the tagging and the content was really run many different ways. So we have those pins at the top, which kind of focus on all our different types of equipment, make it easy to see all. If you're looking for a specific product, now you can see every single asset, whether it's a video, whether it's an image, whether it's a manual, or you name it. So it makes it easy to filter by that. You can also filter on the left-hand side by categories. If you're just looking for tractors or construction equipment or things like that, you can filter as granular as you want to. Across North America, all of our assets have the same exact set of tagging so that we can share that quite easily. Next up was building this ad. So we wanted to make sure that we created a way for the dealers to make these localized ads. We wanted to make it very easy for them and personalized. So we didn't want them to be wasting a lot of time doing these things, but they can do this in a way that makes sense, it visually looks good, also ties into any legal standards and built with we took a bunch of their ads that they actually use and built themselves, and we utilized that kind of template to create one that's new and flexible. So right now, the title you can see is build an ad in 60 seconds, and you can do just that. A dealer can go in right now in our new ad maker, and they can just click on whichever product they want. Their logo and information already shows up. They can choose how much they want to sell it for, what product, and any attachments with the pricing. They typically would have this already before they come to the ad maker, and they just drop it in text in English and in French, and then they can download it, and it instantly downloads in website size, social media size, and then a print size if they need to. And really, the results speak for themselves. So out of all of our 145 dealers across Canada, we've got 93% of them using the asset library. So that is a very high rate, a take rate, and we're seeing more and more as they're getting value. One of the objectives was to reduce the costs. Overall, we reduced the licensing cost by 40% by running this across the board with North America and collaborating with them. So that was a big big driver. We also have over 8,000 assets. That's a 100% increase in the amount of assets we had in our previous dam. We're able to have that much more because it made it easier to work with the American team. So we're able to leverage our assets instantly. And then we've had about over 45,000 asset engagements, and this is a 50% increase over our previous dam. So this allows our dealers to be able to, we have more dealers logging in, and there's more assets, and they're actually using them and downloading them, sharing them with their agencies, and you name it. So the values really speak for themselves, and we're really happy with the results. But through the results and through the research, We also found one clear issue that Milan's going to go through, and that was that the social media assets that we put out in our dam, they were not being used. And Milan's going to go into how we solve that.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. So yeah, when we had the social media assets on the dam, I think part of the reason why we even have a dam is obviously to make things more efficient for our dealers, right? I mean, it serves other purposes, but in the context of our presentation today, we're talking about how we support our dealers. And to download social media assets and then bring it to your native channel and post it there was not really efficient for them. And so we weren't getting much, they weren't really using it. And so the good news is the dam isn't the only program that we run to support our dealerships with marketing. We run 7 programs. We have website search ads, a bunch of other things, but one of them is a social media program. And so when we were looking at different vendors and evaluating them essentially to see who would best provide a program for us, we landed on Hootsuite. But one of the things that we were looking for within those vendors was the ability for them to host a content library in that platform. So the social media program does a bunch of things, right? It allows our dealerships to run multiple different social channels all in one place. They can schedule things in advance. So you could sit down and on a Monday at the beginning of the month and then plan out your entire calendar for the next month, the next 2 months, however far you want to go. And then it has that dam kind of plug-in ability, right? So there's ready to post graphics, they have campaign assets, they have access to influencer assets as well. Everything that you would find outside in the dam that Chad was speaking of, just brought into a space that is more efficient, makes more sense for them. And outside of that, obviously, there's other cool things that you can do in this platform, like a competitive and industry analysis. They can do direct messaging across all their native channels, all in that one space, and then also reporting and analytics. Chad, if you want to go to the next one, I'll walk people through. So this is a short video that I recorded. If you follow my mouse, I'm going over here to the plan section, and this is where they would go schedule things. So I clicked on the content tab, and then here you can kind of see how things are organized and what that view is. So in the drop-down menu, they'd be able to go through different files. And here I chose Compact Tractor because that's our flagship product. And so this is an example of what they'd be able to find in there. So I'm clicking on that one asset, and this asset has a photo, but it's also supported with pre-written copy. And so they can select this, they can schedule it now, they can post it later. And then if I'm just leaving this post here, I'm going into the media toggle. The difference between template and media is template has video and photo supported with pre-written copy, and the media is just media alone. And so this is just what would be available for them here. And so that's kind of how they're able to access and navigate the dam of our Hootsuite program. And this helps them a lot. This helps them, and it helps support them when they don't have social content to use themselves. So Chad, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll talk a bit about the results. In that system, we have about 1,000 assets today. Now, we launched this in early 2025, and there's 375 assets that have been used. So without any context, this would look like a low uptake, but this is actually something that we're happy to see. The way that we had, and the reason why we wanted to have that content, like that content library within the system, is to support the dealers with something in the case that they don't have content themselves to use. But ultimately, they have their own brands and they have their own local flavor. And what we wanted to support them with was a system to just manage their platforms more easily. The content's really a crutch. So we wanted them to still use their own photos, and they're actually able to upload their own media into their personal profile in that Hootsuite platform. So if you look at the other numbers, the dealer posts last year alone were in the 3,000s, and that was an increase of 56% from the year prior, where they weren't using the new system. And so they're clearly posting more, they're posting their own content. And this is successful for them, right? So you can see their average engagement rate went up by 13.8%, which is hanging out at a 5.54%. And this is higher than the industry average by a lot. And also, since starting to use the program, they've increased their followership by 93%. So overall, it's a really successful program. We're quite happy with it. And the dealers using it are seeing improvements in their success on their social media presence online. And yeah, that's kind of the plugin that we have for the content library there. So if I have to leave you with anything at all, I think really what you'll see today is some pretty complex and advanced dams, right? They come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes they come in random obscure places, and they're a little janky. Like, would I like it if Hootsuite had a search function in the content library? Of course. But that's not really what is available for us today. And sometimes that solution that's not as advanced is still the best one for you, right? In Hootsuite, this program and that content library that's available for us really is best suited for us, and it has been very useful and essential in making this program successful. And with that, I would like to thank everybody for their attention.
And I get to thank you both for the effort and for the leadership and for putting this together. You know, we look at DAM through many lenses. We look at DAM through the return on investment. Both of you have addressed that, and it was great to hear the statistical reflections from Ed's presentation. We also look at DAM in another form using the same initialism, ROI, of return on impact. And I think each of your presentations touch on that. And I'd like to segue to a question from that I'd be delighted to have both of you address. Chad, this has been a journey of many years. And as you envision the impact, and as we've talked over those years it really is coast to coast, just like we started with our first presentation a few years ago. How is this filtered around understanding return on investment, return on impact, return on information in the executive offices, in the support that the two of you solicit, need, get benefit from in supporting DAM?
Yeah, I'll take a start, and then Lynn, if you want to take on for me. But yeah, I'd say selling this to executives is it's not easy, of course. There's always challenges when it comes to a DAM. The dealers, our executives understand there's a need for it, but need to invest into it, the amount of resources, I don't think it's always fully understood. So what Melinda and I do, we do have like annual wrap-ups that we do. That's why we have a lot of those stats available, accessible to us. We showcase and demonstrate the value, the usage that the dealers are getting out of it. I think we collectively understand, and our mission is really about providing the best experience for our dealers. And our dealers, they rate, all the North American OEMs, and Kubota Canada, we were always rated number one for marketing. So we get good feedback from our dealers, and we can show the engagement through data. And we also have different like steering committees of dealers to help us shape where this goes. So we never just create a system and leave it. We always create it with ways to evolve it, adapt it around making sure that it makes the most sense for our dealers. And by demonstrating that and just demonstrating the value, and of course, hey, like 40% decreased costs, I don't think an executive is going to cry about that. I think we've been able to really demonstrate the value and be able to continuously evolve this platform. Well, and anything else to add on your side?
Not so much. I think you did a really good job kind of covering it. There's obviously some KPIs that speak to the executive board, but luckily for us at the company, the executive suite is really in touch with the dealership network that we have. And so how they feel about certain programs and, their feedback is heard all the way to the top. And so when we have systems like this that do well, help our dealers in their operations daily, this is not something that kind of just stays with them. The executive suite will know. So.
Nice. We had a really thoughtful question come in that particularly accentuates this, and you've answered it about how each of you helped to express the need for digital asset management versus a digital repository. And I think that in the executive suites, although It's a frustration to all of us. We don't exactly see courses devoted to this in the MBA programs. Each of you have commented on, and I really like your note, Malene, that the dealers are in very constant communication with the executive team. It's a source and methods of influence that helps to amplify the value of digital asset management. What a delight to hear your progress over these years, and thank you both for taking the time to put this presentation together. Much appreciated, and an affirmation of the many ways in which DAM can keep seeking new horizons for where it can bring purpose and meaning. Thank you both.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
So next up, we have the opportunity to benefit from a presentation we've called Taxonomy and Metadata in an AI World. What could be easier? Right, Stephanie?
Indeed.
So thanks so much for joining us for your leadership globally in taxonomy and metadata and unraveling many of these challenges. It's always a delight to share time with you. Over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, David. All right. I am a librarian by education, but I've been working in the DAM space for quite a while. And my firm, DevCut, we are a metadata and taxonomy specialist. So all we do all day long is design taxonomies and metadata schemas, mostly across platforms, so across an entire MarTech ecosystem, but often specifically for a DAM. And we have a lot of different kinds of customers along all kinds of different industries, from media to rock bands to consumer packaged goods to UN and, philanthropic causes. And what I want to talk to you today is about why I still have a job. So, AI started being part of our universe, and everyone was like, oh boy, you taxonomists better start, applying for other stuff because AI is going to completely replace you. We don't need taxonomies anymore. LLMs can read, they understand, they can just tag things on the fly. It's totally fine. We don't need to worry about data quality or cleanliness because AI can just pop in and normalize everything and extrapolate. So, it's going to be fine. Go look for another job. And in reality, this hasn't been the case. I am still gainfully employed. And in fact, the work that folks such as myself and some of the other folks that we've talked with today who are caring deeply around metadata and data in general and language and how people use tools and how metadata supports the kinds of things that we do, AI is being amplified by the work that we do. They say that I think it's more than 50% of AI projects fail or never reach production. And that's because not that the models are bad behind the scenes of these AIs, but there's such a lack of data, or the data behind them has poor quality. There's almost no structure to it, and those kinds of issues. I was recently working on a project with a theme park organization that was trying to do hyper personalization across lots of different platforms for real time hyper personalization. And even after 4 months of inventorying data and sources of truth for things like the names of rides or the names of characters, we were even nowhere close to being able to implement at the end of that. So very much an important component of projects. Here we go. So I just want you to keep in the back of your minds that even though we live in an AI world now, taxonomy and metadata are still and always have been up until now strategic assets and not things that you can just let the IT people worry about. Metadata quality is a product in and of itself that supports and is an infrastructure to DAM, to AI, to all of these kinds of functionalities that we are trying to enable as businesses. And a lot of those AI features that are within a DAM or within another platform, those all thrive and are empowered by this kind of rich and consistent metadata that we are working on behind the scenes. So the message to the higher ups is an investment now, if we're building a DAM or building something else in our MarTech ecosystem, investing in taxonomy and metadata is part of supporting those capabilities. If you want hyper-personalization, if you want omni-channel anything, if you want to automate workflow or content flow across platforms, taxonomy and metadata is part of supporting how accurate and scalable that whole ecosystem is. And even though this symposium is talking about DAM, I just want to also everyone to keep in mind that DAM is just one component of a much larger ecosystem across the marketing function and even outside of the marketing function. So you've got CRM, you've got customer data, you've got media fulfillment, you've got all kinds of things that the DAM is talking to or in the same region as and having to exchange with. So when we think about data, metadata, taxonomies, we want to think from a broader perspective. You know, if I'm building a dam and I want people to be able to sort by tractor type or product type, then I shouldn't be inventing a new product type for the dam. I should be looking at what else exists. Do we have a PIM that has already defined these things? If I'm going to have a list of countries, do we have a master data source for countries? So really thinking about how to start unifying language and data quality across multiple applications. So if we think of DAM as sitting inside of this network, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive on what does AI mean in the DAM context, especially, you know, in relation to all these tools and in relation to data quality. There are quite a few AI features that are common nowadays. The last few years, they've jumped up in quality as well around DAM and MAM. And most of them are around automating tagging. So you've got all kinds of smart tagging showing up in these tools. A lot of them are facial recognition, which can be a bit spicy if you're in a country that has GDPR, any of these data privacy concerns, so beware. But there's also other kinds of predictive metadata summaries, automatic video indexing. There's also a great class of tools around search. So having search act more like an assistant that understands your content and can kind of infer the kinds of assets that you're looking for beyond what you've typed into a keyword, being able to ask questions. It does sentiment analysis. And in some cases, there are actually taxonomy development assistants that will kind of create taxonomies on the fly for you. So these are just a handful of possible AI features that exist in DAM platforms today. Now, is it any good? Great question. I would say 2 years ago, I would said, in general, not really. In the last 12 months, I would say it's a lot better now than it used to be. And not only that, but AI tools now have more training options. So before it used to be, well, you get what you get. It's a black box. It is what it is. If you like it, turn it on. And if you don't like it, turn it off. And up until about a year ago on most of my DAM projects, I would have to turn off the AI tagging because it created so much noise. It was great at things like generic objects like this is a puppy, this is a street light, this is a cloud. It was good at faces, it was good at general tone and text recognition, but it really struggled with anything that was client specific. So if I'm working with a particular brand, for it to recognize the difference, I'm going to use Kubota as an example, but to recognize the difference between Model 1 and Model 2 or Model 2 with configuration A and configuration B, that's really hard for it to do without an extensive amount of training. And it does a lot of over tagging that can turn into noise. It misrecognizes things. I was working with a company that has a lot of baked goods, and it would tag croissants with baby and arm because it saw the folds in the croissant and thought that it was a baby arm, or dog food getting tagged as cigarettes. You know, there's a lot of really goofy examples. I'm sure we all have them. Another thing it struggles with is things that are a bit abstract, you know, messaging frameworks or brand pillars or, you know, funnels of the customer journey. So these kinds of things are hard to define visually. They're hard to train on. And the AI struggles at doing an excellent job of this. The other part or side of the coin around AI tagging struggles is more around, you know, can I predict or repeat what the AI is going to do? And this can be a pretty big deal if you're trying to tag stuff that has impact on reporting. So if you're trying to do reporting at the end of the day, you really want that to be accurate. So if your AI is causing a bit of noise or tagging incorrectly, you can actually influence how budgets are done or influence how things are trafficked. Or if you're in a highly regulated industry like pharma, you can even cause risk in areas that are tightly regulated. So the lack of explainability and repeatability can be a pretty major issue around automated tagging. I mentioned earlier that there's a lot more training options now, but there hasn't been. And again, this sort of black box of you either turn it on or turn it off, and you don't have this option to give it a set of assets and say, well, this is what model 2 with configuration A looks like, has been a struggle up until now. And of course, we've all heard in the media about bias, and this is compounded by what is in the training sets, but also compounded by defects that you might actually have in your metadata design. So getting back to how we define the languages and the categories that we apply to things, we can sometimes introduce bias that the AI would even amplify. So if that didn't scare you away from some forms of AI, that just comes to show, again, the importance of having a solid metadata strategy and a solid understanding of what you're tagging in what context and what are the rules and are you able to replicate what the AI is doing. I hear a lot about we want our data to be AI ready, and a lot of the time when data people or metadata specialists talk about AI ready data, what they say is it should be clean, it should be standardized, it should be governed, it should be accurate. But all of that is just part of clean data, which was already a goal before AI even became a thing. You know, we needed all of this clean data just to be able to do regular style reporting, business intelligence, budgeting, that kind of stuff. We need something more than that for AI. AI needs for metadata to be semantically rich. It needs to understand what categories mean in the context of an organization or a business. It needs to be aligned across platforms. It needs to be bias and drift monitored to make sure that the meanings of things don't evolve without checks and balances, just through an LLM kind of interpreting and taking previous questions and sort of drifting in a direction. And it has to be reliable for things like decision making or machine reasoning or extrapolation to occur and occur in a way that is reliable and explainable again. So when you say AI ready data, you have to mean it. You have to mean the second column and not just the first column, because the first column is something we've been striving for forever. So just thinking about, okay, you're a taxonomist and metadata specialist, so it makes sense that you're trying to sell us on how important they are because you want to keep your job. Yes, and it is definitely something that's been proven now over the last few years of failed and successful AI projects that do have some kind of structured data below it to scaffold it are more successful. And what these taxonomies and metadata are really doing behind the scenes is they're ensuring that your AI models are well aligned to what your business strategy and intent are. And business strategy and intent have always been a core part of a metadata design. When you design metadata and you choose categories and ways to describe things, you are essentially reflecting what's important to us as a business and what are we trying to measure or what are we trying to flow to a particular user experience in a DAM or flow to a page on the website. So you're making sure that your content is tagged in a way that supports your marketing strategy and what you're trying to get out of your content and how you're trying to target it. It also provides a lot more explicit semantics that are specific to your organization. So what does Kubota mean by a tractor versus John Deere, for example? Or what do we mean at Coca-Cola by this concept versus another company? So what is specific to my organization and what does it mean in our business context? And how can I define what the boundaries between category A are and category B that an LLM or another AI agent can understand and react to? Another thing that it helps us do is improve how we can explain why an AI came to a conclusion and tagged something the way that it did, if we have rich rules and boundaries and synonyms and all of those beautiful things that are in the background of a taxonomy, so that we can trust in its answers or trust that we can find out why it gave an incorrect answer and then fix it so that it doesn't do that again. And then, of course, it helps reduce noise in your tagging and produce much more ability, especially if you're doing this taxonomy and metadata design across the whole ecosystem. You're increasing your ability to be intelligent across all of those platforms. So, all of this is a tall order. There's tons of metadata in an organization and tons of taxonomies. So if I want to improve things for AI, where should I start? Great question. Start with a business goal. I do a lot of projects where they're like, please come and fix our metadata and taxonomy across these 10 systems. Like, okay, well, that's like hundreds of fields and lots of potential directions that we can go in. So let's try to focus on a couple of business goals. What are you trying to do? You want to do hyper-personalization? Great. What are you personalizing against? And what metadata is required in order for you to serve the right content to the right user in the right context? What does the AI need to be able to make that connection between a target segment and a piece of content or a digital asset so that it can swap out the image in real time and show you the right dog breed if you're shopping for dog food in the marketing image. So assess what the metadata requirements are to support that business case, and then figure out, well, how aligned are we already? And do we have what we need from a data perspective? And in what shape is it? The other thing I would say is if you're going to try to fix a metadata problem, please don't do it just in one platform. If you own the dam, great. Think about the dam, but also think about all the things that the dam talks to and consider trying to sell the idea to your leadership that data quality and semantic control has to happen at a layer above multiple applications. So if we are going to define our tractor types or dog food types or pet parent types, let's do it once as a marketing organization and share that across as many applications as we can. So this whole notion of a semantic layer, this has been around for quite a while, but it's a lot more popular now than it ever has been. And this is centralizing things like taxonomies, metadata, ontologies, knowledge graphs. Maybe some of you have heard of these concepts before, and using those in a central way to try to orchestrate that kind of knowledge at scale and have it cross multiple applications. And it's really critical for overall increasing the performance and trustworthiness of AI. And then lastly, you absolutely should be investing in AI training. I don't think I've seen a single AI project that was able to just use an LLM out of the box within an organization, because every organization has organization-specific language, bespoke concepts, things that need to have additional information for an LLM to be able to do something intelligent with it. So moving away from all these black box models, if you're going to be implementing a tool or implementing a function in a dam that uses AI, be prepared to spend a little bit of time to prepare a baseline collection that is pre-tagged or to do some level of training on your AI. So all of that to say, I hope that you come away from this short presentation convinced that taxonomies and metadata are not dead. They are more relevant than ever in scaffolding AI. And if you're going to do anything, I beg you, please think not just at the dam level, but think a little bit broadly across the marketing ecosystem and think of metadata quality as a goal in and of itself.
Stephanie, thank you. And I think that's such good advice. DAM is one large planet in my mind in the content universe. And it does span from, you mentioned the word product information management, and to set that in a global context, which is something I know you and your fellow consultants are quite involved with. We have something arriving from the EU called the Digital Product Platform, which is sort of PIM on UPC steroids, in a manner of speaking, and the need for flexibility in the data models and in the technology that are going to need to support the digital, if you will, digital PIM requirement are going to be quite significant.
Yeah.
It's interesting also for all of us to realize that while in the corporate sector, as we've heard from this morning, we have the discipline of object definition and Stephanie's thoughtful guidance that this is across a much wider scale than the transformative behaviors of DAM. We have the same counterpart in the cultural heritage sector when we talked about collections management, which is software in need of much attention these days as the demand for digital continues to unfold. Stephanie, thank you so much for a great presentation and thoughtful context. It's always a delight to see you and help and have the opportunity to learn from you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Before we segue to our next presentation with Robin and Scott, one of the things that's fun about DAM is that you can put one eye on and think, this is like a kaleidoscope and it just keeps changing and changing. And you can put the other eye on and think, this is quite a puzzle. So in honor of this, Reem and I had an idea a few years ago. Let's make a puzzle. And Reem, over to you for a little bit of fun.
Thank you, David. So we had a dream and we made it true. And thank you for the sponsorship of Activo. We run a puzzle because we are the graphic communication management school. We are creator, we are a designer. So I asked our student to design, we run a competition to design a puzzle. And we actually, this year we have a winner, Sadia Khan. She is the winner of the this really great packaging puzzle. And for the honor of the event, we are actually going to run a really nice spinning wheel to select a winner from our attendees, 2 winners to be specific, but now we will select the first winner to select the limited edition DAM puzzle that is designed by a GCM student, produced at the School of Graphic Communication. So Sheila, if you can please share your screen and run the spinning wheel. Rachi Kaur. So, Ruchi, I am going congratulations for the winning the one of the DAM puzzle. We will be reaching out to you after the event to coordinate the packaging. Thank you.
And thanks, Reem, for having the students to get involved with this fun idea of a commentary on the puzzle of answering what's next. So to put this in a large scale, we have an opportunity to hear from 2 Canadian leaders in the cultural heritage sector. We called this presentation Making History, Digital Transformation at the Canadian Museum of History and the Canadian War Museum. We have a conversation with Robin Jeffrey, Director of Digital Transformation, Engagement, and Brand, and a dear friend of mine, Scott Gillum, founder of Push Design, former Director of Design and Digital Experience at the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. Scott and Robin, it's been such a pleasure of mine and an honor to be talking with you about the leadership that you're providing in this. Robin, I've always really enjoyed thinking about your business title since we first met, and I'm so glad it includes brand so we can help the corporate sector to understand, yes, we do this too. Robin's going to set the stage here a bit. I'll turn it over to you. Thanks so much for your participation today.
Great. Well, I think Scott's going to say a few words before I start sharing the text. So why don't you take things from here, Scott?
Sure. Thanks, Robin. Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thanks for spending time with us today. Our session is called Making History, but despite the title, this really isn't a session about history. It's a conversation about how institutions and companies of all sizes really prepare themselves for the future. Across museums and really across every cultural organization, we're all wrestling with remarkably similar questions. How do we become more digital without losing sight of our mission? How do we move from isolated digital projects towards institutional capability? How do we create organizations that can continuously adapt as technology, audience expectations, and now AI continue to evolve? And those questions aren't fundamentally technology questions. They're leadership questions, they're governance questions, and they're people questions. And that's why I'm so excited to have this conversation today with Robin. Before we begin, a quick introduction. I'm Scott Gillum. Until earlier this year, I spent nearly 15 years at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, most recently as Director of Design and Digital Experience, where I led enterprise digital strategy across web, digital asset management, interactive experiences, accessibility, and digital modernization. And today I lead Push Design, where I advise organizations on digital strategy, governance, AI readiness, and technology. Joining me is Robin Jeffrey, as David mentioned, Director of Digital Transformation, Engagement, and Brand at the Canadian Museum of History and the Canadian War Museum. Robin has been leading digital transformation, helping build not simply new digital experiences, but an organizational framework that supports continuous transformation. Rather than delivering two separate presentations, we've structured this as kind of a primer and a conversation. So Robin is first going to share the museum's journey, how they've approached digital transformation, how they've organized the work, and some of the lessons, some of the amazing lessons they've learned along the way. And then we'll spend some remainder of the time exploring what those lessons might mean for the rest of us. So Robin, maybe you'd like to share a little bit about your role, your journey, and how the museum arrived at this work.
Thanks so much. So I'll just pull up the deck first that I have here to share my screen. Just get started. Oh, and I'm just going to make sure that I am in the, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to make sure I'm in slide mode here. How's that looking?
Perfect.
Okay, great. So thanks so much, David. Thanks so much, Scott. Thanks very much, Reem. It's really a pleasure to be here. So as Scott mentioned, he's someone that I think we go back about a decade that we've met, but I've been working in the museums and cultural heritage sector for a little over 2 decades now. Started, studying, doing a master's in Canadian art history at Carleton University here in Ottawa. And then after that, I kicked things off working for an organization that used to be called Virtual Museums of Canada. So working with museums across Canada and around the world to create online exhibitions. After that, continued to work for some other museums and organizations that fund them. Have had a variety of different roles throughout my career. But I think one of the things that sort of pulls it together, the connecting thread, is really just this passion I have for culture, for history, for stories, for art, and finding ways to connect people with all that great, rich material. And digital is a great way of doing that. So I find that I've landed in a really good spot in being able to do bringing these worlds together. Currently where I'm at as the Director of Digital Transformation, Engagement, and Brand at the Canadian Museum of History and Canadian War Museum. So I'm overseeing a very diverse team here of specialists that are working in digital strategy, content development, digital applications, as well as our marketing, brand, social media, and publications teams. But another thing that we do is actually lead the organization's digital transformation strategy and roadmap and help guide the digital evolution of our organization. And that's really what I'm going to be focusing on today. Just because I know we've got some international folks that are in today's symposium. So I thought I'd start off by just telling you a little bit about the Canadian Museum of History. So we're a national corporation that's responsible for 2 organizations. So our namesake museum, which is the Canadian Museum of History that you see here, and it's the country's largest museum of human history. And then we also oversee the Canadian War Museum, which is our National Museum of Military History. And both museums are located on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe. Across both institutions, we're dedicated to sharing the stories of people from all cultures and communities with a focus on the events, objects, and themes that have helped shape Canada over thousands of years. The Museum has in its care some 4 million objects in the National Collection, while the War Museum houses a further 500,000 items. And together, the two museums welcome about 1 million visitors per year who come to experience our diverse programs and events, as well as temporary and signature exhibitions, such as the Canadian History Hall. As national publicly funded institutions that are physically located in the national capital area, so Ottawa-Gatineau in Canada, but that are mandated to serve all Canadians, we also have a robust digital presence. And that includes websites, social media channels, e-newsletters, podcasts, and more. But despite that significant and at times successful digital presence that we've built, I think it's fair to say that digital isn't part of the museum's DNA. So indeed, as an organization that has roots stretching back to the 19th century, it'd probably be more apt to characterize us as a legacy organization when it comes to digital transformation. So one that's continuing to navigate the opportunities and challenges presented by the digital era than an organization that necessarily has the mindset and culture of a startup. And so like many legacy orgs, at times we've grappled with things like communication silos or longer term planning cycles that don't necessarily match the pace of digital development, lack of governance processes for sunsetting digital initiatives, and a lack of shared understanding about priorities, areas of focus, and why we do digital. Having said all that, we are deeply committed to digital innovation and advancement because we recognize that it's key to remaining relevant to 21st century museum audiences. So whether that's the visitors who come through our doors or those who are interacting with us wherever they may be. So how does our culture at the museum support our digital transformation? Well, first, we do have the support from our leaders. So one of our core strategic directions is to leverage technology to drive innovation and deepen access to museum activities. The key outcome of which is to transform all areas of our operations through digital thinking and technology, enhancing how the museums fulfill their mandate and serve audiences across Canada. So now, having worked in the cultural sector for a few decades, as I mentioned, I can say that having a senior level commitment to digital in a museum as a strategic priority is significant. But while that support is a key factor in our ability to implement change, it isn't enough. So we do also recognize that our aspirations can't be achieved without empowering and aligning people. So to foster that horizontal work, the museum took the step 2 years ago of creating a dedicated branch with clear responsibility for leading the museum's holistic digital transformation. And as part of that shift, the division that I lead was created and tasked with developing a digital transformation roadmap, including innovative strategies to transform the digital experience for the museum's audiences, and doing so in collaboration with teams and divisions across the organization. So what that meant in practice, to begin with, it meant a lot of listening and learning. So trying to obtain not only a picture of the current state, but also to try and understand where people were at with their readiness for digital transformation. Another important step that we took was to create a digital transformation steering group. So it is chaired by myself, and it's comprised of about a dozen members from across the museums. And it was struck to help build this shared vision for digital transformation and also to provide a structured opportunity for this cross-functional dialogue so we can spot issues, identify opportunities, share knowledge, and work to align our priorities. Membership terms last for a year, and we've gone through 2 iterations so far. At the outset, however, the group played a key role in shaping our first digital transformation roadmap and helping to lay the groundwork and define the pillars at the core of that work. So by drawing upon, the findings of our internal consultations and leveraging our in-house expertise, as well as doing some environmental scanning and getting some assistance from an external consulting firm, we were able to break things down into a simplified framework that establishes a way forward for us. And the museum's digital transformation roadmap is now built on 2 strategic pillars. So pillar 1, building a digital first organization, and pillar 2, enhancing the visitor experience journey. And the idea behind the two is that by building that digital first organization, the museums will develop the resilience needed to adapt to changes and capitalize on new digital opportunities that will then enhance the visitor experience journey. And that it's working in tandem to transform the museum into an agile institution that effectively leverages technology to drive innovation and deepen access to our activities. So the pillars are further defined with 9 objectives and a series of recommended actions to help the museum achieve its desired outcome. I'll just give you a bit of a quick overview of the objectives. Then I'll talk a little bit about some of the actions that we're undertaking in our first year to give you a sense of what this looks like in practice. So starting with pillar 1, building a digital first organization, this focuses on establishing the internal foundation that's necessary for us to thrive in the digital age. And it does recognize that this involves more than just adopting new technologies. So it requires a deeper cultural shift and transforming how people think, work, and engage with digital technology. And it builds on 4 key objectives. So people, starting with people, empowering staff with the skills, knowledge, and required mindset to thrive and take advantage of digital opportunities, as well as tools, looking at how we're strategically adopting and integrating digital technologies to drive operational and cost efficiencies. Also processes, so looking at the governance and workflows that we have to ensure that digital practices and opportunities are fully integrated into organization planning and decision-making. And finally, looking at partnerships. So establishing strategic partnerships across the private and public sector to accelerate our initiatives and enhance our capabilities. And so working in tandem with pillar 1, pillar 2 is comprised of objectives and actions designed to enhance our reach and impact by integrating digital content and experiences that are going to help us to attract, engage, and build lasting connections with visitors. It's based on the 5 E's framework, which was developed by Conifer Research and which has often been used in exhibition development. Looking at it here and leveraging it for our digital transformation framework, it starts off with looking at entice, and that includes leveraging digital tools to capture attention and entice visitors to engage with the museum. It also involves enter, so looking at how do we facilitate these seamless and welcoming experiences as visitors begin their interaction with us, whether that's on-site or online. It looks at how are we fostering deeper engagement with visitors through interactions that encourage active participation. And also, what are we doing to create these memorable and lasting experiences that are going to leave an impression and inspire future engagement? And finally, how are we leveraging digital to sustain that ongoing connection with our visitors, reaching and engaging with audiences where they are? So it's really about how best to leverage digital to offer a holistic end-to-end visitor experience. So as I mentioned, I just wanted to give you a small sense of, what does this look like in practice in terms of some of the actions that we're undertaking. And I thought I would focus on some of the actions that we're undertaking that focus on leveraging AI, given that I think, as we saw, its use continues to be top of mind for many in the museum sector and elsewhere. So we are in the midst right now of developing an AI policy and guidelines that will provide guidance on how, why, and when AI can be used in the museum's operations, but with the aim of being broad enough to also enable innovation. And in addition to developing policy, we know that we're also going to need to develop related guidelines and procedures, including things like looking at what kind of training program can we roll out to support staff in their use of AI. When it comes to tools, we've recently piloted some AI-driven tools to support simultaneous translation at some of our smaller events. As many of you probably know, Canada is an officially bilingual country, so we're always delivering our activities in English and French and looking at ways that we can leverage AI to save some efficiencies and costs there. And also we're looking at how do we experiment with AI features that are part of our existing suite of business applications. So looking at our customer relations management system, for example, in order to try and improve open rates for our promotional emails by tailoring send times. We aren't just exploring AI as a means of improving internal efficiencies and finding cost savings, though. We're also looking at experimenting with pilot projects that leverage AI to enhance the visitor experience journey. And so the first is an AI-driven informational chatbot that's available on the Canadian Museum of History website and draws upon existing website content to help visitors plan their museum visit. And the second is an initiative that's called Museo. This was launched in December of 2025, and it's a bilingual conversational chatbot that visitors can scan by accessing a QR code beside selected objects that are on view in the museum's Canadian History Hall. They can then ask questions, either typed or spoken, about 10 objects on view, and Museo responds using content drawn exclusively from museum-approved research. So it enables visitors to access more information about an object than would ever be possible to display on a physical object label, and to do so in a way that is personalized to their interests. So with Museo, for example, we're working at the intersection of where those two pillars meet. So as a pilot project, it's enabling museum staff to get hands-on experience, working with AI-driven tools, and to test their effectiveness at enhancing visitor engagement. And what we learn from this will also eventually inform the policy development and guidelines that are underway with real-world examples. I think one of the other things that our work with Museo demonstrates is some of our digital principles informing our actions, and that includes an openness to intentional experimentation. So in that regard, Museo just isn't using technology or AI for technology's sake. It does respond to our audience and digital transformation research that demonstrated that our visitors are looking for more interactive experiences in gallery, but also our visitors are increasingly expecting personalized experiences. So it's very much about being intentional with how and why we decided to use AI in this context. And that openness to experimentation is also informing how we're leveraging partnerships to advance our digital transformation. So, for example, some of our current work being undertaken in partnership with a digital studio is enabling us to leverage innovative technologies such as AR and VR to create and pilot new experiences for our visitors. We're also currently partnering with an academic institution on a research project that's going to result in an online game based on the museum's content. And so with this type of partnership that's driven by a research question, there are mutually beneficial insights for both parties. So from testing new technologies and approaches to digital content creation to learning about audiences and how people respond to different media and topics. So while partnership is an important part of how we're increasingly working at the museum, because I think we recognize that we can't go it alone if we want to really improve our digital capacity and accelerate innovation. The other thing that I would say is important is also being able to learn alongside others. So it's for that reason that I'm very grateful that I had the chance to attend today and to learn from some of the great presentations that have been delivered so far. And looking forward to discussing more with Scott, hearing a bit about his experiences and digging a little bit deeper into some of the things we've talked about. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Robin. I think one of the things I really appreciated listening to your presentation is that although the roadmap is about digital transformation, almost everything you described was really about organizational transformation. Technology almost feels like an outcome rather than a starting point. So I'm curious to maybe talk about some of those ideas. One thing you mentioned early on was bringing clarity to chaos. I suspect that resonates with a lot of folks here. What helped you bring clarity to chaos?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, certainly when I started in this role, there was a lot of talk about, well, what are we going to do, digitally? How are we going to advance our digital transformation? And there was sort of a sense of, a bit of a lack of clarity. Certainly, as I mentioned earlier, I think one of the first things that I did was undertake like a lot of listening and learning interviews. So some 30 interviews with people across the organization, listening to our executive admin assistants, listening to other teams, learning, talking also with, people working in commercial operations, just to really try and understand like what the current state was. And also just to ask, what would happen if we didn't do anything? And the thing that I thought was interesting is that people came back almost universally and said that, if we didn't advance, then we would sort of risk irrelevance. Like there was the sense that we did needed to look at advancing our digital transformation in order to be relevant to our audiences, that we'd miss out on opportunities, and we'd miss out on, engaging staff and employees who would want to work in the organization or sort of be outpaced by our competitors. So it may seem like a small thing, but I think it was really critical in showing that actually people are very much aligned to begin with in terms of that shared sense of why to do it. I think the other thing that helped bring a lot of clarity was trying to develop the framework. Certainly, and I think it's maybe that background, having worked in digital and like with web teams, over a number of years, I'm a big fan of documentation. I think it's really important to have things, written down, illustrated to show people what it is that we're talking about. And certainly by developing that framework, I think one of the things that we found is that we actually were doing quite a lot, but it really helped us to bring it together in a more, cohesive way that could be shared. So we could report up and say, these are some of the things that we're doing. It brought some clarity that way. The other thing that I think developing the strategic framework did help too is that it also helped highlight gaps. So certainly when we talk about that visitor, engagement journey, I think we're really strong in the engagement piece, having developed lots of great in-gallery applications, online websites. But certainly when it came to, extending the relationship, seeing where there was room to improve in terms of some of the things like our marketing tactics and how we were following up with people post-visit. So it was very good, I think, to help with providing some clarity of, where we were at, what was the alignment, what were we doing, but maybe identifying some gaps where we needed to focus more energy as well.
Right. Great. Did that lead to a point where people across the organization started speaking the same language around digital?
That's a good question. I don't know necessarily if we're there yet. And I would say honestly, like I think we still have some work to do to, continue just to, I think someone earlier sort of spoke about maybe even having like a marketing plan, like an internal marketing plan when they were launching their next iteration of the dams. I think there's still some work that we, who are some of the digital leaders in the organization, need to do to continue to, share the vision a bit more. And we've been talking recently about how to do that more in terms of looking at, just leveraging our tools, internal communication tools like our intranet, like our all staff meetings, etc. I think one of the things that has happened though is that, I talked a little bit about the digital transformation steering group that we had, and I think that just helped to, foster more trust, more open communication. And so what I'm finding now is that that reflex or that muscle to reach out to other people in the organization when you're looking at starting upon a new digital initiative or exploring something, it seems to be more intuitive now for people to start from a standpoint of collaboration. So, and I think too, in terms of looking at, my division as a center of expertise, I am finding that people are reaching out to us more as well in terms of, starting that collaboration, talking about ideas, getting advice, before we sort of go off, let's say, in different streams. So I think some of those things have been shifting.
You mentioned the digital transformation steering group is now entering its third iteration. I actually found that really encouraging because it really suggests that governance evolves. What have you learned through those iterations?
Yeah. First it was a mix of, staff, managers, and directors, so people from all levels of the organization. And part of that is because, I really truly believe that leadership can come from anyone. You don't necessarily have to have like a formal leadership position to be a leader and to bring forward good ideas. And so for me, I felt it was really important to have a variety of people who were digital thinkers that could contribute to that steering group. And as I mentioned, that was really critical in kind of getting things off the ground in terms of developing the framework and contributing to the discussions around what that would look like and getting a real sense of some of the pain points. I think as we started to move towards more of the action phase, if you will, or implementing different tactics, it became important to have the people around the table who could help inform the decisions that may be more at the level of sort of resources. So looking at things like budgets, making some of the larger decisions about operational impacts. So for example, one of the things that we've undertaken is that we've presented the museum's first VR immersive experience. And so the conversations around that and having the discussions to sort of make the case and look at what that would entail was something that made sense to sort of have at the director level. So I think it was as we sort of transitioned into some of that. As I said, we've kind of been on a bit of a pause, but we're looking at starting things up again. And I think part of that is that we're seeing definitely a need to, dig deeper into some of the things that I talked about. So looking at, okay, well, how are we going to go forward and try and make a bit more headway with some of our AI policy and training, among other things. So I think we're looking at, we kind of need to bring people back together and start focusing on that element of things. So yes, it has gone through some different iterations, but it's been, I think, a good resource to have along the way.
I think those are really great kind of closing takeaways. I see that Rain was notified that we're close to time. I think it's, I mean, all the things that you pointed out really show that the institutions that thrive won't be simply those with the most technology. They'll really be the ones that create the clearest alignment between mission, governance, people, partnerships, and digital capability. And I think you've showcased some really great tools. So thanks a lot, Robin.
Oh, thanks so much. And thanks very much for listening. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think what you just said, Scott, underlies a common theme from Arcturix to Kubota to Stephanie's cautious wisdom about looking at across the content supply chain. And then Robin, this is such a lovely coda to that, the conversation, your presentation, your project, and the conversation with Scott, to realize that as we bookend these initiatives, that it is transformational. There are a lot of touch points to it, and it does often have the need to hit restart. And that will continue to be true as we try to catch the digital wave and see the meanings it can have for any of our either corporations or institutions. Scott and Robin, thank you both for your presentation. Really appreciate it. We now have a scheduled break. We will reconvene in 10 minutes, which will be 12 past. And we will start with another fun drawing and then into a really fascinating session about mentoring and how we make all this happen. Reem, thanks, and I'll let you help to orchestrate our clock, please.
Okay, so we are back, and what we're going to do right now is that we're going to call for the next draw for the second winner for the dam puzzle. So Sheila, if you can please run the wheel to select the second winner for the puzzle. Yes. Congratulations, Tess. You are the winner for our limited edition puzzle. David, over to you for the next session. Okay.
Hello, Reem.
Hi, David. Can you please introduce the next session, please?
I would be happy to do that. One of the things that helps our field in so many different ways is the opportunity to facilitate structured learning, such as the programs that the classes that Reem oversees, the program at Rutgers. And this session is called Mentoring, Guiding Professionals to the Future. It's become a signature mark of the GCM class that Reem is leading. And Reem, I'll let you introduce this great group of colleagues who are exemplifying the importance of mentoring.
Thank you so much, David. I want to first share a very quick presentation just to give you a quick background about what we are going to do. As David mentioned, I am teaching a very unique course at the School of Graphic Communication called Asset Management for Graphic Communication. It's a core course for undergraduate student. I have about an average of 140 students every year, and we teach them everything about the asset management from the fundamental side and also on the lab. And because the students are introduced to the asset management for the first time, we actually created a mentorship program where we ask a mentor from the different dam expert to be a mentor leading the student while they're doing their project over the 12 weeks. This is an example of sample of the couple of mentors that their company represented. Since COVID, we started with 11 mentors, and last year we got to 55 different people working with us in the mentorship program. And so what we're going to do today is that we have a quick panel. I would like to introduce Asia. Asia just graduated yesterday from the GCM program, and she is going to be introducing the panel of some of the esteemed experts who are actually have been working with our student over the couple of years. So Asia, I'm turning the virtual stage to you.
Hello, hello. So I'll just give a little bit of intro into me before I move into the panelists. So my name is Asia Zain. I recently graduated from GCM. I had the pleasure of taking Dr. Reem's DAM course 2 semesters ago, so that would have been fall 2025, where I actually worked with Edward Wong, where he was my mentor for building a DAM platform. And then in my last semester of school for my capstone, my group and I actually developed a comprehensive business plan where we proposed a digital asset management platform that was targeted towards small and medium-sized businesses within Canada. So I currently work as a project manager at Davis, which is an integrated branding agency, where I actually work with my clients on a day-to-day basis. So it is, this topic is something that I see every single day. So I'm really excited to be here to talk about it. I think we'll jump right into our panelist introduction. So if you could please briefly introduce yourself, your current role, and what motivated you to participate in the GCM DAM mentorship program. And I think we'll start with Clemency.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Clemency. I'm based in the UK. I'm an independent metadata and search consultant, working primarily with organisations who need help organising their metadata strategies and their keywording. So we've already heard quite interesting stories about those elements of DAM today. I did start working with Ream back in 2021 originally. So I've helped with mentoring some students. I've also been judging some of their work, and I have also presented for the department as well on topics such as alternative text, metadata, keywording strategies, and things like that. I've really enjoyed working with the students, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But just to say, I've had students working with me now in my small business, so freelance keyworders that have been supporting me on large keywording projects. So I think all in all, when we're talking about mentoring and helping students get into the industry and the reciprocal relationship that we have there, I'd like to say the students have been very helpful to me already as a small business owner, and hopefully some of the insights I've shared with them have also been helpful for their learning.
Amazing. I think we'll move on to Jim next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jim. I'm based in the US. I live in Maine. I currently have sort of an odd title. I'm a customer in residence at the Canto group, the Canto dam system. And I work with a lot of large customers on some of their challenges and introducing some of our AI tools. Prior to that, I worked at Associated Press for quite some time with photo, video, building out their systems to house more than 80 million photos and 6 million minutes of video, and began working with AI back in 2021. It's been very rewarding for me personally to work and mentor with Ream students. It personally keeps me connected, but more than that, I look at this group that's graduating last year and this year and next year as the new DAM leaders, and they're going to be taking over for those people that are moving on. And I think that they're graduating at a great time, and it's great to work with them.
Perfect. Melanie, over to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Melanie Strauch. I'm the digital marketing advisor here at Alberta Municipalities. We are basically the middleman between the municipalities in Alberta and the provincial government. I set up our DAM system internally. And when it comes to our user groups, it's not just staff. We also have media, for example. We have the municipalities, we have the provincial government. So a lot of different permissions that are needed and exciting topics that they're looking for within our DAM system. I have been supporting Ream. I think this is now my 5th year. I don't know, for me, it's really exciting to see, to on the one side share my knowledge, but then to see what they do with my knowledge. You know, they bring it to a new level. They give me feedback too. I'm learning from them. They're learning from me. And it's just so nice to see that collaboration on both sides.
Absolutely. As a student, I absolutely love that. I think that a lot of the time, especially now, in my short time within industry, and with my experience with building the dam during Ream's class as well, it's really great to get an outside perspective of, how a student might interact with the dam. Maybe they're not necessarily building that dam, but someone like me with work on my day-to-day basis, I am an end user. So it's really cool to tie together the academia and the industry. So I think leading into that topic, we'll start with Clemency. So the DAM field benefits greatly from collaboration between academia and industry. From your perspective, what is the value of mentorship in bridging the gap between classroom learning and professional practice? And how can these partnerships better prepare students for careers in DAM?
Well, I think we've already heard in just the first couple of minutes that there is a bit of a bridge a gap to bridge. And I think that we can all play our part in that. So I think the students are doing that. And also, I think organisations are helping as well. So these kinds of collaborative opportunities, we should all take advantage of those, and we should all give back where we can. I do work with gaps quite often in my own work, so I can kind of identify with this problem. So as a consultant, I'm looking to solve a problem that may not be immediately obvious. And I think sometimes the Down students will have that in abundance because they'll be looking at projects that they are creating, you know, problems theoretically to solve, and then they're reaching out to consultants and institutions and organizations to gather information, you know, work through that process, putting theory into practice. So I think the gap is something that's very valuable in the learning context, and I think that that is how real life really is. You don't always have the answers, you know, even experts in their field, and collectively we have a lot of expertise. We don't always have the answers, and I think it's a really important thing for students to recognize that in their mentors and in people like us who are helping guide the way for them. I think it's already been mentioned that we stand to learn a lot from the students as well. So a lot of my work is around dealing with language and how language changes and evolves. So for my customers, I'll need to understand what's currently appropriate, what's culturally relevant. So working with the younger students, especially being, you know, the next generation going out into the industry, it's really essential that we listen to those opinions and get the feedback from that generation to be able to do our work to the best of our abilities. You know, we've already talked about things like bias and, you know, the need to be diverse and inclusive. I think that's played a big part in how I've been shaping my business as I've been working with the students. And I think also the skills needed in DAM really lend themselves to learning. So I think of my work working with DAM as a lifelong learning process. We don't have a situation where there's one type of DAM, one type of system, one type of, you know, workflow and process. Every scenario is really unique to every individual organization. And culturally within those organizations, the way they use DAMs is different, and the metadata they apply to their digital assets is different. So I think the skills that the students have, which really feed into their experience in the future of DAM, are things like being able to adapt, being agile, being you know, naturally curious. And I would like to emphasize that those skills aren't just for students learning at university, they're for everybody working in an environment that constantly changes. And I do really see DAM as one of those types of things. And I actually think that's quite a, you know, a beautiful thing to work in because it keeps us on our toes, it keeps us curious. So yeah, just to sort of put it into context, we don't always have all the answers. And I think when we can confidently share that with students, it gives them more likely the you know, the kind of mindset of let's try things out, let's explore, let's be willing to make mistakes, that's fine. No one's going to blame them or, you know, criticize them in the real world. It's just part of the process, and it's just all about learning and you know, being collaborative in learning is a reflection of being collaborative in the industry as well. So that's definitely my experience from my own work. And I also think it's really interesting what Stephanie was saying earlier on about some of the classic skills, the classic disciplines of taxonomy and, you know, classifying content. They're things that, in spite of the rapid pace of change with AI, those things still really underpin the work that I do. So again, the gap could be bridging the past and the future. It could be bridging the younger generation and the future generation working in DAM. I see it as a kind of cyclical loop rather than a kind of something that has a beginning and an end, and we're not at the end and the beginning was somewhere way back in the distant past. This is a, you know, it's a kind of infinite loop of learning, which I would like to think all organisations want to be part of that and would like to welcome the students into that dialogue, as I certainly have. And as I mentioned, the students have been fantastically supportive in my team as well. in what they bring to my keywording team, my keywording services. So yeah, I think just to reiterate how grateful I am for that input as well.
That's incredible. I absolutely resonate with what you said about, you know, as a mentor entering a space and these students have identified a gap and they're maybe not too sure what to do about, about that, and just providing that reassurance that there's gaps in the real world as well. That's definitely something that in my experience with my mentor, I was like, this is a gap that I'm seeing here. And that is, it was incredibly reassuring to be like, this is something I will encounter in my career. And now I have some experience trying to solve it, or some reassurance that yes, I just have to just try and work on it and see what the right solution is. Could you maybe share an example of a mentorship experience that led to a meaningful learning outcome or career opportunity?
Oh, well, in my mentoring, I got to talk to students in lots of different industries and sectors, and yeah, and I mean, I think some of them have gone on to do, some work in industry that has been relevant to that DAM experience. And as I say, some of them have joined me and my team as well. Not people that I directly mentored, but just being part of the community at the university has enabled me to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think the experience of working with the students through that process, through the mentoring process, showed me that they were iterating on their work in the way that we do in real life. So such as myself, a consultant will start maybe with one route, one kind of like discovery path. And then through collaboration and discourse, you'll realize that we actually needed to factor in other things. So I think examples with the students were things where, maybe they thought through a metadata schema, and then, we'd had meetings around areas that they perhaps hadn't thought about, which gave them an opportunity to think about how metadata in itself is such a large area, and then when you kind of wrap that into DAM, you realize that there is an awful lot to work through. So hopefully for the students, just coming up with those albeit theoretical scenarios for DAM actually will translate easily into the real life work of working in DAM. So yeah, I loved seeing the end results of those projects as well. I think they've done remarkably well, and they've really shown the ability to listen and take on board our guidance, and to also push back where they felt they needed more specificity or clarity. Again, this is all part of learning how to live and work in the real world, and especially in DAM, being able to push back, it's incredibly valuable for an organization that would be hiring these students in the future. So well done to the students.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Jim. We have a question about AI, which is definitely a buzzword for the year. AI is now embedded in many aspects of the creative industry, and AI-powered DAM solutions are rapidly gaining attention. So, based on your experience mentoring students, how well prepared do you think today's students are for the current realities of the industry? And where do you see the biggest gaps or opportunities for growth?
Well, thank you. Thanks for the question. And I would say, to start off, the current pace of innovation that we're experiencing right now, whether you're a student or you're a seasoned DAM professional, is extraordinary. We haven't seen this kind of pace of innovation in quite some time. And some might refer to it as ready, fire, aim, as opposed to ready, aim, fire, if you happen to, taking a hunter's mentality or what have you. Think about this. Students that began college in 2022 started their studies before ChatGPT, Claude, and Firefly were available publicly. And today they're graduating, and the AI environment looks dramatically different. And it looks dramatically different from the one that existed when they enrolled. It's different than it was 6 months ago. And I think as importantly, as fast as this tech and these tools are moving forward, the guardrails are lagging. We're at this pace of innovation where it's moving so fast, it's hard for anyone to keep up. Specifically, I think students are generally more comfortable with AI than previous generations, and in many cases more comfortable with experimenting. With it than some DAM managers and practitioners who have spent years managing established systems and workflows. But in many respects today, we've got a level playing, if not a moving playing field as AI emerges. It's new, it's daunting, and everyone, seasoned professionals, graduates, students, are learning to navigate this new tech and emerging tools together. And we're all learning to adapt and collaborate. Um, I think many still view AI primarily as a content creation tool rather than strategic capabilities that can assist in the entire content and information lifecycle. I think that's a gap, or perhaps better said, addressing opportunities ahead is how does AI fit across the spectrum from workflows, governance, metadata, rights management to search and discovery, collaboration at scale? How can AI be our assistant? And how do we put those guardrails in place? Uh, Even to be fair, even seasoned professionals are trying to sort through all these questions right now. So back to how well is everyone prepared? I think they're as prepared as they can be coming out of programs like David's at Rutgers and Reams at TMU. Uh, but 6 months from now, we'll be dealing with new tools and more emerging tools. I think one of the biggest opportunities is to help students develop creative and operational fluency, learning how to organize, manage, and discover and optimize AI, but not just do something cool because it's the next shiny object, but to make a difference. And as I said in my introduction, many of today's students will eventually succeed today's dam managers and leaders who have spent 15, 20 or more years building and governing these platforms. And their challenge will be to preserve the discipline, governance, the strategic thinking, and also identify where AI can improve efficiency, decision-making, discovery, and user experience. I think that graduates that can balance innovation, operational rigor, customer satisfaction will be well positioned to lead the next era of digital asset management. In a nod sort of to Stephanie and Chad, who I thought their presentations were just fantastic, experiment thoughtfully, validate rigorously, and implement responsibly. That would be my guidance.
That's incredible. As a student, that is such an important topic. And I think as an emerging professional coming into, the industry, having a bit of a different perspective on AI, absolutely. Being able to understand how we can use AI as a strategic tool is incredibly important. For Melanie, so as STAM continues to evolve, what technical, strategic, or interpersonal skills do you believe are most important for students and early career professionals to develop in order to succeed in the industry?
From my point of view, success in digital asset management today requires basically a combination of technical expertise, strategic thinking, and strong collaboration skills. So when we're looking at the technical skills, students should understand, of course, metadata, taxonomy, governance, and how DAM systems integrate with other platforms. And I know we heard that quite a bit today. From a strategic standpoint, you need to understand the business value of the content and how those assets support organizational goals and teams across the organization. So you're not just in your silo, you're also looking at the other teams and how people will utilize that system. But equally important are the interpersonal skills. So DAM professionals in the end work across departments. You need the ability to collaborate and build relationships. I think it's incredibly important. And one of the things that often surprises the students is that it's not just about the technology, it's actually about the people. Because in the end, it's the people that are using your system. So as an example, it is fairly natural that if you were the one setting up your DAM system within the organization, you know what you did. And in the end, you know the logic that you applied, you probably know each asset, if I'm very honest. I know every single asset that is in that library. But your logic does not necessarily equal the logic the different user groups apply when searching for an asset. So you need to be able to think about what each user group knows about the system, what problem they want to solve by using it. So for example, they want to find that specific asset for a presentation, and what words they would use to describe the asset they're looking for. It might not be the same words you would use. But then also from the opposite perspective, when you are an end user and you can't find an asset, like maybe try to step back and think about the logic an administrator might have applied when setting up the system. And if you really can't find it and you have feedback, reach out to the administrators. At least in my organization, we are always happy to receive feedback and improve the system. And I think that's just a small part of that collaboration skill within organizations that need to happen to utilize DAM systems actually efficiently. Like if you're not becoming better, like status quo is not always amazing. To connect to what Jim said, the industry is changing rapidly, particularly with the rise of AI and automation. So while foundation, sorry, I'm nervous here. So generally, you need the basic information and your knowledge, the metadata management, information architecture. It all remains essential. But I think the main thing is adaptability. It is becoming one of the most valuable skills. Students who are curious, willing to continuously learn, and are able to work with emerging technologies will be well positioned for long-term success. Ask questions if you have questions about it. Stay curious, stay open-minded. I'm still learning, and I think every seasoned professional is still learning. Everything changes so fast, and the tools will evolve, but the ability to adapt and think critically will always be relevant.
That's amazing. I absolutely love what she said that it is about the people. Yes, the platform is one thing, but the people are the most important. That's really important to me as a student just finishing school and becoming a new professional in the industry. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing all of your perspectives. They were incredibly insightful, and I think I'll pass it over to Ritten. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much. I think what we have next is the DAM Creative Showcase. So very quickly, I'm just going to explain that this is connected again to the asset management course that I'm teaching. Students have to select a topic within the asset management, and then they have to use their creativity skill in order to reproduce the topic in like either infography, video, and also games. So we, with the help of our speaker, with the help of our sponsor, and also our experts, we had like the top 5 selected candidate. We have Alexia, Medina, and we have Kenda, who's designing the game. You can see a link to the showcase on the
Hi, my name is Laura, and I'm a recent graduate of the Graphic Communications Management program at CMU. For this project, I created an infographic discussing the future trends in DAM. I found that one of the major trends is the use of AI-powered tools that improve searchability, discoverability, tagging, and more. Other trends include a focus on security, supporting different types of content such as videos, and providing analytics. Being able to measure asset performance, engagement, and ROI directly within management systems is a key strength that many businesses are starting to look for. Through this course, GCM 460 Digital Asset Management, I learned how companies use a DAM system to manage and organize their files. I got to apply my knowledge by creating, launching, and presenting a fully functional DAM system for a fictitious business. By the end of this course, I went from being unfamiliar with DAM to being highly knowledgeable of DAM systems, real-life applications, and how a DAM system can contribute to workflow efficiency and business growth and success. Thank you.
What does it actually mean to use AI responsibly in digital asset management? Dam Ethics, a challenge card game I designed as my GCM 460 project, answers this question. My name is Kinda Abushanab. I'm a graduating graphic communications management student, and here's my design. Dam Ethics is built around 4 pillars of responsible AI: accountability, fairness, transparency, and privacy, each mapped directly to real dam workflows. In the GCM 460 course, we explored how AI is transforming DAM, from automated metadata tagging to compliance checking, but AI carries real risks: bias, privacy breaches, and legal liability. The rules of the game are simple. Players draw scenario cards depicting real ethical dilemmas, and they have 2 minutes to identify the correct pillar and propose a solution. The first team to earn 15 points wins. Every scenario reflects a genuine real-world risk, like discovering your AI agent was trained on third-party images without the proper consent. GCM 460 taught us that unmanaged AI within DAM creates real legal, ethical, and reputational risk, and that governance is no longer optional. The goal of this creative project was simple: to make ethics tangible and DAM understandable for professionals, students, and enthusiasts alike. Thank you.
Hello Canada Dam Symposium, I'm Amanda Fan, a recent GCM graduate. For my DAM creative project, I explored digital asset management in a bit of an unexpected environment: fashion and dress-up video games. My submission included a presentation on how DAM is used both in the back-end development as well as the front-end, as I also created a dress-up game mock-up to showcase how it's used. In these type of games, a player's wardrobe functions as a DAM system, and it's very important as you have thousands of clothing assets, and poor organization can stifle creativity and make it really difficult to complete quests in-game. I tried to demonstrate how structured taxonomies and metadata allow players to search and filter assets quickly and efficiently. Whether you're managing fashion items in a game or assets in a corporate supply chain, the same DAM foundations apply, ensuring the right asset appears at the right time. GCM 460 taught me that DAM isn't just about organization, it's about connecting data architecture with user experience. Thank you so much.
Chat. So now we are going to announce the winners of the DAM Creative Award, and this is the sponsors also by our sponsors, and the winners is Kinda Abushanab and Ahmed Harris. Congratulations, both of you. We will connect with you after the event. You will get a certificate and also a gift card from our sponsor. Congratulations.
This is always such a fun part of what we all benefit from, in the opportunity to see the extraordinary work from Ream students. In the recording for today's event, we will include a video that shows the work that led to the recognition for these 2 particular standout presentations. And to the mentors and to Asia, thank you so much for that session. It's such wise guidance. It's so interesting to think that when DAM started, there was no cloud. There were versions of hosted services, but there was no cloud. When DAM started, there was no iPhone. And sometime we'll look back and say, I don't know, was there ever a time when, we didn't have AI? But something else will come along. And that's part of I think, the joy and fascination of this field and its kaleidoscope nature and being ready to embrace what's next. So, speaking of what's next, we need what's next to grow out of the discipline of a deeper understanding of what we've done to date with digital asset management. When Reem and I were working to create LED, we came to the rather startling insight that there was no university basis for research in digital asset management anywhere in the world. So here we are today in 2026, no longer true. We're going to get an update about the research that has been going on at LED, Plans for the Future, and some researchers are going to share their work. Reem, if I can turn this over to you, thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And to align with what David mentioned, David and I work on trying to initialize a place that actually advocate for the advanced research and asset management, a place where we can connect the industry and the student, and that what is the Lab of Excellence in Asset Management. We have run multiple research projects from graduate and undergraduate students. So what we're going to display today is a short video of like a summary of some of those research, and we are also going to we can't fit everything, so you will see also some recording of those research on LinkedIn. This is an opportunity is to build a community. This is the place where we get connected with the industry and the community. And if you have an ideas for research, this is the place where you can come to. And with that, I'm going to ask Sheila, please play the video for our research summary.
Hello everyone, my name is Phoebe and today we are a group of Master of Digital Media students and we're going to present the topic Digital Access Management, Issues and Opportunities of Destination Marketing Organizations, DMOs in Canada. So let's get started. Briefly about our project. We have been working closely with Lab of Excellence in Digital Access Management, TMU, and we have received and analyzed data from 18 interviews with DMOs across Canada. About 50% of them are small-sized organizations. It means that they only have 1 to 4 team members, but every day they have to manage and work with like thousands photos and videos. It's really hard for them to quickly find 1 or 2 specific assets to use for their marketing purpose. So we use 3 main methods for this research. First of all is expert consultation because we were quite new in this field and we learn a lot from them. Secondly, qualitative research. We conducted 2 direct interviews with marketing managers of tourism Squamish and St. Thomas. This helped us understand exactly what they expected from us and also the challenges that they have been facing. Last but not least, we also focus on providing practical output because our clients were not expecting something that would only stay on the paper, but something they could apply directly to their daily workflows and operations. We identify 4 main challenges and the stages which these breakdowns occur. As you can see on the left side is the digital access lifecycle with 5 stages: create, manage, distribute, retrieve, and archive. The 4 main challenges are weak metadata practices, stage 2 and 4, inefficient workflows, stage 2 and 3, fragmented storage, stage 2, and budget constraints, stage 2 and 3. So we comes to our main mission. How can we have small DMOs in Canada implement no to low cost DAM strategies to optimize efficiency as well as their brand consistency?
To answer our research question, we developed our solution proposal, which focus on more scalability and affordability and treats the entire DAM and asset tagging process as a pipeline optimization initiative with a focus on governance and standardization rather than treating the entire rather than building an entire enterprise software, which doesn't solve the problem of low cost and less resources in our context. So how it works is like we had a solution for each of the challenges bucket, like a metadata guide for weak metadata practices, a collaborative workflow models for when they are working with third-party photographers or content creators, and low cost and no cost workflows which are open sourced or based on free or monthly plans, which helps to deal with the problems of fragmented storage and having low budget constraints. For the first challenge, and our first step of proposal was a metadata and keywording guide, which outlines the four tags that every asset should include, such as locations, seasons, and creator rights, which are the mandatory one. And also, it can have experience attributes, which outlines having like seasons or like more of a budget or type of activity, and building up more layers to the asset, which helps in a better searchability of it. Also, we included a hybrid approach to folder organization in our proposal, where we have a mixed hierarchical and a flat approach for our use case, because from the research that we found out, having three or four depth of folder, it really creates friction in user experience. And also, we found out was that the approved folders were lying way deep in the hierarchy. So we flipped that up to the first level, so that the people are not wasting time in finding assets that are already expired. And there is a collaborative workflow model that we propose when they are working with third-party photographers, where the metadata and the keywording guide can be shared early in the process, so the assets are tagged with those specific keywords that the DMO require at the source. Since we had a lot of like assets that are lying in the local storage, so we developed a lightweight a script, a workflow which can be used for tagging those existing assets. As you can see on the left, the assets are unorganized, untagged, and on the right, when the script runs, it creates a folder organization and an Excel sheet is generated, which basically tags all the asset with the required metadata tags, and also updates their assets, and it can move them into the desired folders, which basically solves a lot of hard work that they have to do in manually editing or like adding those metadata tags at once per file. So this can run reliably for thousands of assets at once, which really solves the problem of tagging or like reorganizing those old trees. Besides, for the new incoming assets or the existing asset, we already had a cloud workflow, because we also had a lot of DMOs that are using cloud-based storage methods for storing, sharing, and tagging those assets. So Google Form-based workflow having Google Scripts was also in our submission, where they can add those tags in the by using a Google form. Once the tags are added, a notification is sent to the Slack, and once a asset is approved and added up with the tags, as you can see on the drive screenshot, the file name is being changed, and you can also see the tags that are being added to the folder. So we got a pretty much good feedback and appreciation with the DMOs, that they were very much willing to try it out and test it in a piloted stage study to try out the different scripts that we have. And also, there was some of the future consideration that we had taken care, like since there were some of the AI workflows that were a bit costing money in that because the APIs, they need to be, when they run, they need to have require certain sort of subscription. But a lot of agentic AI and image-based analytic tools can help in solving the metadata extraction and the creation part. Thank you so much for your time. And for more questions about the solution and about how we did the research, you can head over to the DAM website, where you can have a look at the detailed thesis paper. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Kenda Abushanab. I'm a graphic communications management student here at Toronto Metropolitan University, as well as a research assistant at the LED lab under the supervision of Dr. Reem El-Saleh. Today I'll be presenting our research on the intersection of generative AI and digital asset management within the graphic communications industry. We'll be examining how these technologies are currently being adopted, what the data reveals about where the industry stands, and what patterns are emerging across organizations. The purpose of the study was to examine how generative AI is currently being integrated into DAM systems within the industry, and to identify the governance, ethical, and EDI considerations accompanying that integration. There were three key issues that we noticed when framing this research. The first is governance. Organizations are navigating Gen AI adoption at varying stages of policy development. The second is DAM implementation, which remains uneven across the industry. And the third is how EDI and ethical frameworks are developing alongside these technologies. Our central research question was, how is generative AI being integrated into DAM systems within the graphic communications industry? Our methodology had three components. We began with a systematic literature review conducted over the winter 2024 to 2025 period, covering scholarly publications, industry reports, and practitioner resources to establish the theoretical foundations of the study and inform both research instruments. This was followed by the quantitative and qualitative components, an online survey capturing data across 5 focus areas, and 5 semi-structured interviews with senior industry professionals. Together, these 3 methods allowed us to situate our primary findings within the existing body of knowledge and identify where the gaps are. In turning to the results, the data paints an interesting picture of where the industry currently stands. 91% of respondents reported using generative AI in their professional work, while 37% reported having a formal DAM system in place, and 45% reported having some form of governance policy for generative AI usage. These 3 figures together reflect the current state of adoption across the industry. On adoption barriers, resistance to change was identified as the top concern by 67% of respondents as the most significant obstacle, followed by high implementation costs at 55% and a skills gap at 45%. The ethical concerns data showed copyright and intellectual property as the most widely identified concern at around 91%, followed by transparency, data security, and bias. Sustainability was identified by a smaller percentage of survey respondents, though it emerged independently across multiple interviews, a pattern worth noting as the industry continues to develop its understanding of AI's broader footprint. And we had 4 themes emerge from the cross-analyses of our survey and interview findings. First, governance frameworks were lagging behind adoption. The data reflects that many organizations are in the process of developing policies in parallel with, rather than ahead of, adoption. Human intervention is considered essential. Across both datasets, practitioners consistently identified human oversight as a key component of responsible implementation. Sustainability was also another emerging concern. While not yet widely reflected in formal reporting frameworks, sustainability concerns came up across multiple informants. EDI bias and the skills gaps. 28% of respondents did not perceive generative AI as having a significant EDI impact, which the research notes may reflect a lag in awareness rather than an absence of risk, particularly in production-oriented roles where the downstream effects are less immediately visible. This research contributes sector-specific empirical evidence of where the industry currently stands on Gen AI and DAM integrations, a topic that has been relatively underexplored in existing literature, and highlights patterns that may be useful for professionals, organizations, and researchers navigating this landscape. Our 2 main observations from the data is Gen AI adoption is increasing while governance development is ongoing across most organizations, and DAM, while widely understood as strategically valuable, remains underutilized in practice, primarily due to resource and scalability constraints rather than a lack of awareness. Thank you for listening to this presentation on the research. I'm happy to discuss any of the findings further. You can find more information about the research at the LED website.
Hello everyone, my name is Sheila Segan and I'm a graphic communication management student. And today I'll be presenting my research on literature review on evaluation tools for alt text quality in e-commerce websites that explores challenges and opportunities for improving alt text quality with a focus on accessibility standards, AI tools, and the importance of user-centered design. My study used a literature review methodology to examine existing research on the effectiveness, evaluation, and management of alt text in e-commerce websites. Peer-reviewed articles, accessibility guidelines, and studies relating to web accessibility, screen readers, WCAG standards, artificial intelligence, metadata, and automated evaluation tools were analyzed. The goal was to identify current strengths, challenges, and gaps in alt text practices and explore opportunities to improve accessibility and usability. One of the strongest themes that emerged from the literature review is that alt text is often treated as an afterthought, rather than an essential part of the user experience. Many organizations focus on accessibility as a compliance requirement instead of considering whether users can actually understand and interact with the content. Research also found that alt text is frequently added late in the development process, resulting in rushed, incomplete, or even missing descriptions. A lack of accessibility awareness and training among developers contributes to these challenges. These findings highlight that the importance of integrating accessibility throughout the design and development process rather than treating it as a final step. The literature also found that automated tools are effective at detecting whether alt text exists, but it struggles to evaluate the quality. Tools such as Weta and Altcon can identify missing alt text and generate suggestions, but they cannot reliably determine whether descriptions are accurate, meaningful, or even contextually appropriate. Studies have shown that poor quality alt text can still pass automated accessibility checks. Several studies reported that users with visual impairments often find existing alt text inadequate. Descriptions may be too vague, generic, or incomplete, making it difficult to understand the content being presented. This issue is especially common with complex visuals, such as charts, graphs, infographics, maps, and detailed product images. A major gap identified throughout the literature is that limited involvement of users with visual impairments in the evaluation process. While automated tools and expert reviews are really valuable, user testing is necessary to assess real-world comprehension, navigation, and task success. Another important theme is that creating effective alt text requires more than just simply describing an image. High-quality alt text must be accurate, contextual, and useful to users. The literature consistently supports a hybrid approach that combines automation, human expertise, and user feedback. Automation tools can improve efficiency by identifying missing text and generating suggestions, but human reviewers remain essential for evaluating the context and accuracy, and particularly for complex visuals. User feedback helps ensure that descriptions are meaningful and meet real world accessibility needs. The research also highlights the role of metadata, workflow, and artificial the research also highlights the role of metadata, workflow, and artificial intelligence in improving accessibility. Alt text is a form of metadata that can be managed throughout content creation and publishing workflows. Effective metadata management helps organizations to create, store, and maintain and transfer image descriptions across platforms. AI tools can improve the efficiency and scalability by generating description for a large volume of images, but they often struggle with context, intent, and accuracy. As a result, human oversight remains essential. Several key challenges remains. Existing accessibility guidelines emphasize the importance of alt text but provide limited practical guidance on what high-quality description should look like. Complex visuals remain difficult to describe effectively. Automated tools cannot reliably evaluate quality. User involvement in testing remains limited. AI-generated description often lack context, and managing alt text consistently across multiple systems might be challenging. Thank you for your time and attention. As we move into the next phase of this research, developing a practical framework for assessing the quality of AI generated alt text, we are looking to connect with researchers, accessibility advocates, and industry partners who are interested in contributing to this work. If you would like, you can scan the QR code on the screen and please add your name in the form shown in the screen. And we would love to continue the conversation and collaborate on future research initiatives.
Hello, my name is Amanda Edwards, and I'm a recent graduate of the Graphic Communications Management program here at TMU. I'm really excited to share my research with you all today because it combines my top personal and professional interests, which are digital archiving and DAM. So let's get into it. I first just want to quickly mention the background of my research and how it came to be. The idea came as a result of the three crucial elements of my life, which are 1, my overwhelming interest in DAM and organization, 2, the profound impact personal archiving has had on my life through sites like Tumblr and Arena, and 3, my frustration with current platforms available for digital archiving as personal practice because they're not as in-depth, visually appealing, or customizable as I would like. Digital asset management systems are an administrative software tool used for organizing, managing, and providing meaning to digital content. Key features of DAMs include dedicated taxonomies, metadata lists, and machine-generated insights, leading to increased efficiency through organization. With that being said, no such service is available on demand nor for individual use on a consumer level. Instead, users are left with visual discovery platforms intended for inspiration through image-based research, where the inherent emphasis is placed towards envisioning one's aspirations instead of actualizations. According to the American Historical Association, every 2 minutes we take as many photographs as the whole of humanity took in the 19th century. Many of these images end up on social media. However, social networking sites were not designed to support an unprecedented growth in hosted content. DAM systems, on the other hand, were built exactly for this type of use. These notions led to the primary research inquiry of how can the fundamental structure of a DAM system be adapted for modern use as a visual tool for habitual self-reflection. My objectives were to 1. Understand the current capabilities and limitations of consumer-level visual discovery platforms, 2. Uncover current attitudes towards digital archiving based on personal and professional experience, and 3. Apply results from the first 2 objectives into the construction of a DAM-inspired proof-of-concept platform. Growing research suggests that social media can be viewed as a curative practice regarding both the user as curator of their online persona and the content tailored for their feeds. As a result of the online ocean of information, many users experience symptoms of mental overwhelm due to the consumption of information caused by the permanently connected affordance of such sites. This is also commonly referred to as content fatigue. Research on the effects of fast-paced social networking sites have shown that many users experience distorted self-perceptions as the ability of viewing other archives at any given time has been shown to invoke negative feelings such as insecurity. The overwhelming majority of these sites also contain systems operated by algorithmic intellect, which raises concerns of personal agency in users as they struggle to control what they see. My research methodologies included 1. A comparative analysis between Pinterest and Arena based on the DAM criteria, 2. 2 surveys which were given to digital archivists, 1 for professionals, 1 for non-professionals, and 3. A platform prototype for a DAM-inspired multimedia platform for consumers. Here's a chart excerpt of the results of my comparative analysis. It was based on the criteria listed on the right. For the sake of time, I'm only going to be getting into the first 2 items. So, metadata information on consumer level platform. This component is not harnessed anywhere near its full capability. On Pinterest, metadata is not required, and certain fields like uploader and date are not viewable at all. On Arena, metadata is not a required part of the upload process because it's automatically extracted and visible once the site processes it. However, certain fields cannot be later edited, such as the author and file name. The screenshot below shows the non-editable fields, which cause a bit of confusion, as the author is not the uploader. In DAM, metadata is always required, visible, and editable. Search features on Pinterest use an intelligent feature to visually draw information from content, which is then tailored to users' tastes, meaning that 2 users could search for a Toronto city skyline and receive entirely different results. Contrastingly, Arena uses a keyword-based search engine, meaning that the 2 users who search for Toronto city skyline would receive the exact same results. A DAM system uses a combination of intelligent and keyword-based terms to populate its results. To gain a better understanding of the needs of current digital archivists, 2 confidential internet surveys were sent to 2 different demographics: those who use digital archiving as a professional practice and those who use it as a personal form of self-expression. A total of 29 participants took part in the survey and belonged to either the professional or non-professional group, which are also referred to as industry and social media in the findings. The reasoning behind the distribution of 2 types of surveys was to better monitor prevalent attitudes. So now for the results. Whether content is archived professionally through a DAM system or through social media as a more accessible medium, digital archiving has a profound, lively impact. A staggering 100% of respondents agreed that internet users are gravitating towards machines for answers as it learns their habits and preferences, of which 41% of respondents claim to behave this way as well. Although machine intelligent features are heavily desired, data shows that individual agency is as well. 90% of respondents say that search tools should include an option to exclude machine-gathered results. 62% of participants claim that the practice of digitally documenting their life has sometimes or definitely felt performative. This data proves that there needs to be a closed-door space online where internet users can be themselves without feeling social pressure. Here is an open-ended response that I want to share because it once again highlights the effects of digital archiving and why it's important for individuals to have a dedicated space for it. Based on the issues discussed within the literature review, the results from the comparative analysis, and the surveyed needs of current digital archivists, the study's conceptual prototype was designed to be visually intuitive, functionally customizable, and practically scalable to cater to the widest range of needs. Images used for the prototype and the images also used throughout this presentation were anonymously uploaded by survey participants. The landing page of the prototype was inspired by the layouts of visual discovery platforms like Pinterest and Arena, where content can be viewed aerially. Where the prototype strays from tradition is in its spacing, where large gaps of negative space are intentionally placed between items to limit the experience of content fatigue. Just as the insight section of a DAM provides companies with integer-based intel on their content strategies, such as performance metrics, the silhouette section transforms this component into a tool for introspection by displaying thematic similarities detected between uploads. The in-depth asset page displays content and its associated information in a clear, minimalist manner. Here, users can cater to their creativity by adding custom metadata fields to describe information of personal importance. This highly individualized approach is what I refer to as alias metadata, as concepts and terms can be renamed to meet user-specific needs. In conclusion, my research shows that there is considerable room for current digital archiving platforms to better meet the needs of their consumers. Although consumer-level platforms like Pinterest and Arena share an overlap with DAM, it's on a very simple and often unmodifiable level. Surveyed opinions show that users want more choice when it comes to using built-in intelligent and agentic features, and in accordance with the literature, many also experience a lack of agency and performative pressure online. There's also a considerable gap that must be bridged between professional and personal archival standards, and this can be achieved through simplified education. My prototype proves that a solution is also possible through technological modification, but most importantly, this is a result of listening and catering to users. Thank you for your time. If you'd like to keep up with me and read my full research paper, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Hope you enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Hello everyone, my name is Sierra Seaton, and today I'll be presenting my thesis research titled Implementing Digital Product Passports, a Shift Towards a Circular Economy in the Textile Industry. My research focuses on how digital product passports, or DPPs, can support sustainability and transparency within the textile industry, and more specifically, how digital asset management systems can help companies organize the large amount of information needed to implement these passports. The textile industry was chosen as the focus because it is one of the most environmentally impactful industries globally, contributing heavily to landfill waste, water consumption, and energy use. At the same time, growing consumer awareness and new European Union regulations are pushing companies to rethink how products are created, tracked, and disposed of. As a part of the European Union's Circular Economy Action Plan, textile companies selling products within the EU will be required to implement digital product passports by 2027. These passports are intended to increase transparency throughout a product's life cycle and support the transition away from a linear economy model of take, make, use, dispose. So, first of all, why are digital product passports even important? A digital product passport is essentially a digital record attached to a product through a data carrier such as a QR code, barcode, RFID tag, or NFC chip. This passport contains information about the product's materials, origins, environmental impact, repair instructions, and end-of-life disposal or recycling recommendations, among other things. One of the biggest goals of this DPP is sustainability. The textile industry currently produces enormous amounts of wastes, and many garments are discarded after a very short lifespan. By providing consumers with better information on product care, repair, and recycling, DPPs can help prolong the life of products and reduce the amount of textile waste ending up in landfills. DPPs also support the goals of a circular economy through what I describe here as reduce, reuse, and recycle, or end-of-life management. Instead of products being treated as disposable, DPPs encourage products and materials to remain in use for as long as possible. Another major purpose of the DPPs is transparency. Consumers are increasingly demanding information about how products are made and whether brands are operating sustainably and ethically. DPPs provide companies, governments, and consumers with access to standardized information throughout the supply chain. This transparency helps improve accountability, supports enforcement of sustainability legislation, and can help reduce greenwashing by requiring companies to back up environmental claims with actual data. In my literature review, I found that transparency is one of the most important aspects of DPP implementation because better access to information allows both regulators and consumers to make more informed decisions. Now that I've established why DPPs are important, the next question becomes, how do companies actually manage all of this information? This is where digital asset management systems, or DAM systems, become important. DAM systems are specifically designed to organize, store, and manage large amounts of digital information and metadata. My thesis explores how this existing infrastructure can support the implementation of DPPs within textile workflows. A key benefit to using digital asset management softwares when compiling your information for a digital product passports is data flexibility. You're able to choose what data you keep for each piece, and you can tailor it to a line or to each individual garment within a line. Metadata is completely customizable. Some examples that you can see on here are you can have material type, construction type, content, and weight. Those just being some examples of information you would keep for each garment. Another great benefit to using DAM is the integrations. There's a lot of integrations available with DAM. The one I looked at mostly for my research was through the Frontier DAM system. They had an integration with Made2Flow, which gives information about water depletion, CO2 levels, and land use for each fabric, which can help meet the level of information you may need within the DPP regulations to report to the local legislators. And last but not least, one of the key reasons why you would use DAM is the data organization. Since DAMs have been set up to organize large amounts of data, they are perfect for the task of organizing all of your material information for each product, allowing companies to be able to find that information at a drop of a dime. Overall, my research found that digital asset management systems are well suited to support digital product passports because they already manage complex product information efficiently. Their flexibility allows companies to meet DPP requirements while still protecting sensitive data, and existing integrations make adoption more practical for the textile industry. Overall, DPPs can help shift the industry towards greater sustainability, transparency, and circular production practices. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, my name is Tess Alfonso, and I'm a graphic communications management student at Toronto Metropolitan University. Today, I'd like to share my thesis research on color descriptions and alt text and how they affect accessibility within digital asset management or DAM workflows. We know that alt text is an important part of digital accessibility. So for this research, I chose to focus specifically on how color is described in alt text and communicated through accessibility metadata. I chose color because it plays an important role in visual communication. It supports branding, helps identify products, and influences on how we interpret information. For someone using a screen reader, that information is only available if it's included in the alt text. As I began researching this topic, I found a lot of information on accessibility, metadata, DAM systems, and AI-generated image descriptions. But I kept returning to one central question: how should we describe color? Even though color can be defined precisely through systems such as hex codes, RGB values, or other technical color models, the more I looked into it, the more I realized that there is no standard way to describe color using words. For example, one person might call a color cerulean, while another might describe it as sky blue. That's where I found a gap. Although there's a lot of research on accessibility and alt text, there's very little guidance on how color should actually be described. So this is both an accessibility and communication issue. Because color descriptions can vary across languages and cultures, my research focused on English language alt text. DAM workflows is also an important part of this research. In DAM systems, alt text is stored as metadata. As assets move through different systems and platforms, that metadata moves with them. So if color information is unclear when the alt text is created, that same issue can continue throughout the workflow. This raised an important question. How does the quality of color description in alt text affect accessibility for people who use assistive technologies? To answer this question, I did research using qualitative approach, combining literature review, industry perspectives, and platform testing. I had conversations with Carolyn DeRosier, the CEO of Scribely, and accessibility specialist Laura Brady from TMU. They both provided valuable industry perspectives and helped connect the research to real-world accessibility and content management practices. I compared AI-generated alt text from Adobe InDesign, Microsoft Word, and Facebook using the same image and evaluated it with Apple's VoiceOver screen reader. What I found was interesting. All three platforms generated alt text, but the quality of the color information varied significantly. Microsoft Word produced the most detailed descriptions and identified multiple colors. Adobe InDesign recognized color, but used much more general language, such as describing an object as blue instead of using a more specific name like navy blue or cerulean. Facebook often focused on object recognition, and sometimes left color information out altogether. What surprised me most was that all three platforms generated alt text, but described color differently. So this showed that accessibility isn't just about having alt text. It's also about the quality of the description. An image may technically meet accessibility requirements because alt text exists, but it may still fail to communicate important visual information such as color. From a DAM perspective, this matters because metadata stays with an asset throughout its life cycle. If color information is incomplete when content is first created, that limitation can continue as the asset moves through systems, platforms, and distribution channels. My research found that color description has not been standardized, which contributes to differences in how color information is communicated and experienced across platforms. My research also suggests that accessibility is not just about adding alt text. It's about making sure the information being communicated is meaningful, accurate, and useful. As organizations continue to adopt AI-generated descriptions and automated workflows, improving how color information is described and managed as metadata will be an important step toward creating more accessible and meaningful digital experiences. As I wrap up, I'd like to acknowledge the people whose guidance, expertise, and support contributed to this research. I'd like to thank Carolyn DeRosier and Laura Brady for sharing their expertise and perspectives during this research. I'd also like to thank my thesis professor, Dr. Krzysztof Krystasiak, for his guidance and support throughout my capstone project. Finally, I'd like to thank my thesis advisor, Dr. James Ginther from University of Toronto, for his guidance and support throughout this research. I'd also like to thank my main thesis advisor, Dr. Reem El Asaleh, for her mentorship, guidance, and unwavering support throughout this research. I am so deeply grateful for her encouragement, insight, and dedication, which were invaluable to the completion of this work. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my thesis, and I hope you found it useful and helpful. Bye.
And we are done.
Well, not done. Thank you very much for sharing the research and also, Reem, in your case, leading this research. What a different elocution of conversation we're able to have these days because of bringing this kind of both the discipline rigor and also the interesting topics that we just heard about. And I love having digital archiving be a component to this. The needs of archivists and the needs of collection managers still remain largely unaddressed in contemporary data world, and it's exciting to hear that. Our next presentation is called Jump to Seamless Collaboration Powered by Productive Dam in Kawath Lakes. And Sherry, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It still twists my tongue just a little bit. I so enjoyed learning a bit about your dam and the initiatives that you've got to put dam to work in a governmental setting. Thanks for taking the time to present today, and over to you.
Thank you very much, David. You are very close in pronunciation, and you're not the only one to be wondering. So it's Kawartha Lakes. Very happy to be joining you all today. And there's nothing like being the last presentation. So I will do my best to bring it home today in as light a way as possible. It's really been amazing to hear all of the perspectives so far. Some of you may be familiar with Kawartha Lakes. We are known for our beautiful cottage country. We are just about 90 minutes east of Toronto, Ontario, and we're known for our beautiful waterways. We have 250 lakes and rivers, thus our name, connecting all of our beautiful communities. We have a very rich agricultural history, lots of wildlife, and what you may not know is we are huge. We are 3,200 square feet, which makes us the size of a small province. And we do have some towns that you might recognize: Bobcaygeon, Lindsay, Fenelon Falls. We're a single tier city, which means that we deliver over 200 services to our residents. And that means we have many thousands of digital files that need organized and shared in a organized manner. So the next challenge I want to talk about is our dam and the incredible power of the dam to unite people across Kawartha Lakes. So before dam, people often asked, which is our current logo? Where are those event photos from that last flag raising? Who has the final version of our headshots? Didn't we create this last year? And all of these are information management problems. So again, the assets existed, as they do in many of the organizations we've heard from. We just couldn't find them and we couldn't share them effectively. So from earlier presentations, this seems to be that common ground of where the pre-dam implementation begins. So the goal was to find the files, have people trust that they're the right files, share them, and then be able to reuse and get back to work. So our dam is more than storage. We've heard earlier that it's really important that you have the right taxonomy and metadata. The value is in helping people trust, share, and reuse the information in your dam. It helps teams to stop those file hunts and the file confusion of which version is the latest. It is the wind beneath the wings of all other areas of our marketing plans. And that reach is huge. So I'll give you an example. The city website, and we have 3 of them, but the city website alone has over 400 pages, and each page has at least 1 image. So using our DAM to ensure that we always have the right and latest assets on that one channel alone allows both speed and accuracy across the city. So what was the goal? The goal was to create one trusted source for all of our municipal assets. This is outside of SharePoint, so SharePoint holds all of our files, but we needed somewhere for all of those photos and videos that do not play well within the SharePoint space. So we didn't have resources to dedicate one staff person or really any significant resource to own the DAM. So the way we went about it is we relied on the system as our concierge. And so we used 3 key departments across the city and developed an administrative structure through those departments, and then set up the taxonomy together. It was an agonizing process, but our vendors helped us and we got there. And then we set out a governance structure for all other departments to be able to use the DAM. And by and large, the system is self-serve. It is our concierge. It requires very little support from our communications team, which is small but mighty. There's 4 of us. And it certainly had the desired outcome. So what you're looking at is one of the pages from our DAM, and it further allows on the left-hand side some of the tools that we use all the time that really, our concierge function is we can create a collection of images and share them internally or externally. We can flag favorite images on our role in the city, what we're using all the time. We can mark assets to be retired at a certain date so that way they don't become overused. And my favorite feature is if there's a search that I do all the time, I want to know one of my favorite photographers, when they've uploaded their latest files by season, I can save that search and easily go back and see the latest and greatest from that photographer. So we've seen transformation across our 10 departments. We did see the silos we used to encounter around our assets disappearing, coming down. For example, we might see our people services team, human resources, it's often called, accessing files from both our paramedics and our fire service and pulling those files together into an employee recognition presentation. In the past, those same people would have reached out to my team, could have gone back and forth in several emails to define the need. Then our team would search through a variety of drives and Teams meetings and USB files and finally get the files that were needed. So really cuts to the chase and helps reduce any duplication. So the scavenger hunt became truly a transformation for us. And it did take a couple of years for us to transfer all of our data into the new system. So it was a slow and steady process. And instilling the system as the place to go for your photos and videos, that's still in flux, but absolutely looking back, we can't imagine not having this system. And that transformation was not achieved by the technology alone. It was that combination of what we've heard today, the governance structure, people knowing where to go, how to get access, having standards, and then really seeing the adoption. So the last piece that's really helped with transformation is when we saw the introduction of AI in our DAM, the search became supercharged. And so that really has helped us find what we're looking for beyond the metadata that we're as diligent as possible to code in there. So, like we have heard today, it is truly important to have people adopt systems that they trust. So even though we had focused on the taxonomy very heavily up front, What really mattered was making sure that the right people had access to the system at the time that they needed it. And it really helped that the system was super easy to use and didn't require any formal training. And it's been mentioned a fair bit today, so I'm not going to go into user engagement, but I did want to mention the importance of having a solid vendor team. Our team was there when we needed them, and they were also very open to what features weren't in the software that they could build in. And so what we asked for was the ability to upload photos and videos from mobile devices. And we got it. And it's amazing because most of our staff generated images come from mobile devices. And it's really handy to be able to just simply upload them in the field and just get them into the system. Okay, so we've seen wins across campaigns. We've seen seasonal events become accessible to the rest of the city. Really a very practical dam across all of the departments that you see here and across our external vendors. So people who help us design our annual budget book, which is over 300 pages. That designer collates photos and videos from across the city in a very easy process. And I'm going to show you a few examples of the treasures that we found in our dam. So the first hidden gem was when our Parks and Recreation team developed this portal that they share with dozens of swim instructors. And so each season, they want those instructors in the pool and teaching students. They don't want them sorting through emails to find the latest guide or the latest set of report cards that they need to fill out. So everything is loaded as needed onto this portal with always the latest files. And so that's been a win for Parks and Rec. Another hidden gem is for our team. We work closely with our local media, and our media portal allows them to go and find assets from the latest press releases. You'll see one here from our paramedics release, and we'll load up more videos, more assets than are available on our website through our newsroom. This is sort of the behind the scenes for media, and that's been well received as well. And then the last one, of course, Kawartha Lakes is known for Kawartha Dairy. If you haven't been, you got to try Kawartha Dairy. And so one of the tests would be any department wants to search Kawartha Dairy. Can they come into our dam? Can they find it? Do they know, is this photo approved for external use? Is this child signed off with the right permissions to use the photo? Are there duplicates? Has this been used in the last year? All that information is found in the dam. So definitely helpful. And then, of course, any dam is going to have the data that you need. And this is really helpful from a governance point of view. We have over 50,000 assets and 138 users. So it's well used and growing every day. And this is an opportunity for us to keep an eye on where things are headed and ensure that we're spending a lot less time looking for things and we have the data to show it. And so one of the things we've learned is start with that treasure you want to find as you're building your dam. Really starting with the governance, how you're going to use it, and who it's going to benefit is an important first step. Yes, the technology really matters, and the system that you choose will guide you. But the governance, the adoption, and the trust make it successful in the long term. So spend the time up front to design your dam with the super users in mind and start as you intend to go on. We're in the home run. Just as our 250 lakes and rivers connect communities across Kawartha Lakes, A well-managed dam connects people, information, and ideas across the organization. Dam is not about storing files, it's about making information available when people need it. This, in a city context, means that we can better serve our residents. Whether you're just starting out or looking to further refine where you're at, your dam has the potential to help people find, trust, share, and reuse your assets. Happy treasure hunting. And of course, we would love to see you this summer in Kawartha Lakes. Check out our tourism website and see some of the amazing assets from our dam. Thank you.
Sherry, that was so terrific. Thank you so very much. You helped to synthesize so much of what we heard today. DAM often seeks alpha, but too often finds entropy. And your presentation helps to bookend what we've heard throughout the day, which is a persistence of exploration, a willingness to go from department to department. And I loved your examples. Not only the theology of them, but all the specifics of how you found unexpected hidden treasures and put them to use. Around the organization, when new staff join, how do they hear about you? How do they hear about the concierge? I shouldn't use the word you. How do they become aware of this concierge service when they check in as an employee or a partner?
Oh, well, that's part of our governance, David, and we didn't want to be at the pinnacle of that system. So what we did was decentralized, and a new staff member would learn about DAM through the executive assistant for their department. So there'd be 10 across the city, and they would be the head administrative support for the department. And those people always have access to the DAM and can request that a new person have access or just simply share out what that person's looking for. So it's decentralized as possible. And then, of course, if anything needs escalation, that's where it finds its way to our communications team, and we're that last step between the city and our vendor.
Really nice. I was also glad that you did mention how important it is to have a productive and an engaged relationship with your vendor, with the systems integrator if they happen to be involved. The vendors, if we look across the dozens and dozens of people who have joined us today, the vendors, if we could tally up the amount of money, and it is in the millions and millions of dollars that is spent every year to make software work for all of us. And a lot of that dependency, in the same way that each of our speakers today have commented on the value of dialogue and of interaction and feedback, the vendors depend on this too. So having that, I was really glad to hear that comment, Sherry, in your presentation about working with vendors, because something will come along or something will be remembered from a demo that didn't quite work out. And the landscape changes. We're all grappling with the current incarnations of synthetic tools that help us hopefully go to work and do work better, but they do take laboratory time and experimentation and ongoing training. We've had such good advice in that today. I like the idea of the executive assistants that you just mentioned. They become kind of the stewards or the ambassadors and the focal point for the concierge services. And it's with your permission, I'm going to probably be using that as an explanatory framework in some of the work that I do to try to help affirm DAM's potential in an organization.
By all means.
Thanks, and I hope to get there someday. So I will ask you a question. Does the dairy only do cow products, or do they have goat and sheep?
Oh, I think right now it's cow only, but we do have a really beautiful goat, Mariposa Dairy, which has goat products in Kawartha Lakes. So we've got it all.
There you go. I'll jump to that. So, Sherry, thanks so much for putting the presentation together and for your insights. You've helped us to see that DAM always starts somewhere and has so many places that it can go. And one of the things, as we wind up today with a couple of fun things that is so true about DAM, is that DAM can help manage across adjacencies. And it's something that Reem teaches, that I teach, and I think many of the mentors, all the mentors who shared their time and resources with us, help to illustrate the importance of that as your presentation did. So Sherry, thank you for sharing that today. Great. And Sherry, if you want to drop off camera, that's okay. And so Reem, we have one final fun thing we get to do. Two things. You want to do two things? I think we have time really quickly and we'll be on time. Let's spin the wheel for our second dam puzzle that your students created.
Yeah, we did that. So we need one puzzle. The last award.
Great. Okay. So let's go ahead and wrap up. And so what we're going to do now, we can go ahead and we put the wheel up. Is that okay, Reem? Do that?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So if you'll do that. Many of you know that I have the very special privilege to be the director of the Professional Studies program at Rutgers University. And on behalf of Dr. Julie Johnson and the faculty at Rutgers, we are pleased to offer tuition to one of the Rutgers classes. Reem and I and Julie work very closely together because we're all accelerating and upskilling professional knowledge and ability to go to work in DAM. So wherever this stops, we'll be in touch with someone who's going to win tuition to one of the Rutgers classes.
Okay, Sheila, run it.
All right.
Okay.
It's always the applause that makes me smile.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks. Reem, how about a little insight into some things that are coming up, and then we'll wrap up.
Yes. I am happy to announce that we will be hosting an in-person event on September 29th, and this is going to be a very special event. We are, as a way to build a community, this is going to be hosted at the Toronto Metropolitan University. I'm going to share more information about it over the couple of weeks. So please keep an eye on your email, keep an eye on our social media. We are so excited about this event, an in-person event. And with that, I also want to say thank you to our wonderful speaker. Thank you for our attendees. Thank you for the student, for everything. It's because of you we are continuing doing this. And thank you, David.
Reem, you're most very welcome. To the community in digital asset management that continues to grow and unfold, thanks for your participation in this field and for the leadership each of you are bringing and the contributions that each of you are making. The meaning of DAM unfolds so differently in each organization, but today we've heard common threads, starting with our first presentation and ending with the opportunity to jump around those lakes. The meaning of what DAM will do will continue to evolve and change. And with the leadership at TMU and with each of you working as professionals in DAM, thank you for that. This concludes our session for today.
Thank you, everyone.